can't even move, right? Like, because a million people enter a big game store, for example, and like they all grab the same game at the same time, and that's just literally war going on in those stores. And
that's how it used to work, right? Like basically everything I read is that Black Friday isn't really the same thing anymore as it used to be, especially now that it lasts for a couple of days instead of like a single day. So people are like, you don't need to physically go to the place to get the big deal. And I think in Europe it's never been that way. And that's why, I don't know, like about you guys, like it felt like that whole quote unquote Black Friday thing, which really only became a thing in Europe in like the last couple of years, maybe 5 years. It's a huge letdown. Like actually I was looking at stuff and I couldn't really find anything except for, of course, like the Savatarix orders, right?
Of course.
But like imagine if your local game store goes like, okay, well, today and only for an hour or two, all dual lands are going to be $20. Like, dude,
I thought you were going to say like 20% off. Like no, $20.
like that's a declaration of war, basically, right?
Yeah, I guess if they say like we got like let's say 5 of every duel is gonna be hugely discounted and first come first serve, I think that would people make queue up at I mean, it's basically like printing money, right? Because then people would go straight to reselling them. So I guess it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, you would probably also want to camp before in front of the store for like a night or two, just to get them in time.
Yeah, I guess it also like it doesn't really make sense in that way for Magic, because from what I understand is like the whole idea for the store also is that the store gets to like clear space. There's like a physical limit to how much they can actually have and display at the store, and then like the Wizard is not going to be like, oh, there's new duels coming out soon, so stores are like, oh, let's clean out the old inventory of like, I don't know, Tundra and Volcanic Island. There's gonna be Uber Volcanic Island coming out like next month, so let's sell this to all the suckers. And with that, hello and welcome everybody to Everyday Eternal number 159, your favorite, most deservedly named bi-weekly Legacy podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our brand new Patreon, Akaleth. And if you want to support the running of the show directly, you can support us on patreon.com/everydayeternal. I'm Julian. I'm here with Callum and Kai. And guys, how's it going for you? I can't say we just returned from Eternal Weekend Europe. We picked the date for this episode to go strategically between Eternal Weekend Europe and Asia, and right before Eternal Weekend North America, which is going to come up in a little more than a week.
We must say your Everyday Eternal Weekend.
Yeah, Everyday Eternal Weekend. That's how I messed it up, right? It's going to be a couple more years until Wizards renames us that way. Callum, you didn't go, right? But Kai, you and we went, but as it turns out, only I really got to play. Like, well, what went wrong there?
Yeah, that's very true. Throughout the event, I wished I joined the event like so many times because it looked so much fun. But yeah, I was busy being Savatarix.
You got to play more Magic than I did in that weekend still.
Yeah, dude. I had a bunch of people who challenged me during the weekend, and actually 31 people combined on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thank you so much. And I lost more than I won, so I think that's basically goal achieved.
So
honest, like I guess we should quickly add, like you had a booth at Eternal Weekend, right? It's not like you randomly walk around and people are like, "Hey, Kai, let's do it."
No, dude, this is not Pokemon, right? But
wasn't there like a Yu-Gi-Oh! City of Duels or something where people literally did that? They walked around in the city and then like you randomly dueled, and if you lost, you died.
Cool. That's really cool. I don't know about the dying thing, but other than that, I think it looks really sounds really appealing. But yeah, as you mentioned, like I had my Savatarix booth for the very first time at a large event like this, the Eternal Weekend. It was a blast being at the same event, you know, together with like other artists such as like RK Pose and Mark Poole, a lot of the other vendors, like big names out there, right? Like JK Entertainment who hosted the event, and a lot of just
Wait, like RK Post was there?
RK Post was there too, yeah, and Mark Poole, and oh man,
I was so sick that weekend I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I was only hanging out at the Savatarix booth.
Oh, thank you, but you know there was a lot of stuff going on, so I don't blame you if you missed any of the side attractions, because yeah, there was also like Ultimate Guard, they had their booth too, and I think you could also directly challenge Andrea Mengucci and like a few other people, and it was great. It was
so funny when you tell me about these things, because like I'm quickly gonna mention it. I only was there for a single day. I decided on very short notice because I felt like pretty sick leading up to it. Then I got better, so I was like, on Friday afternoon, okay, let's just like jump on the train there and go there. And then I actually went back on Sunday because I still didn't feel too well. So that was my weekend. It's so funny. Like I've still been there all Saturday. And you mentioned all the stuff to me, and I'm like, was I like delirious? Like, did I literally not notice all of that?
Yeah,
apparently,
actually pretty huge. Yeah.
Like looking back, like they had this whole ring of attractions around the playing area, right? Which is kind of a cool setup. And it all went past me. Like looking back, dude, I only experienced like 10% of what there was to experience.
I mean, this is probably like the biggest difference between the Eternal Weekend that happened in Prague, Czech Republic, and the one that happened last weekend in Aichi in Japan. Like the one in Aichi, that looked like let's say like a quote unquote proper GP where they had a giant hall and they had loads of side events going on at the same time, and it was like overall, I think like a gigantic convention, right, including a big Commander playing area and lots of artists and like a stage with stage events. And the one in Prague, Czech Republic was more like it wasn't a hotel, right? Like how big can it possibly be?
It wasn't the top hotel, as they called it. Actually, there was a Commander area, I'm pretty sure, because whenever I went to the bar and I spotted a sign that said, I think command battling zone this way, like pretty far away from the actual playing area. So I think there was actually like a side hall. Honestly, I never went there. I bet it was like twice the size of the Legacy main event, like 1,500 like Commander players just going at it.
Dude, maybe so.
I have no idea. But yeah, I still had a great weekend. I already mentioned it. I didn't do too well health-wise. I at some point, like let's very quickly go over that because that's not the most exciting thing to talk about. I played Painter, Boros White Splash. You can find my list on basically my Twitter, or if you ask for it in the Discord, like I still get so many messages about that. I updated my Mox field. Maybe that's the best place to find it. And I still got to, I think, 5-2 at some point, which was like, oh, okay, maybe, I'm not top 8, but maybe we can get somewhere. Then I played the Mirror against another Painter pilot. And I set the perfect trap. Like, despite my delirious condition, I was so proud of myself because, like, I literally planned ahead for the next 2 turns where, like, I would tap out to put Painter into play past the turn, which is always, like, a huge red flag. Like, you don't do that in the Mirror, right? And I was like, I'm still gonna do that. I'm gonna make it look like accidentally. Like, I'm, stupid Julian, you put Painter to play, and no, you passed. Oh, my God. And then the opponent literally went for it because they had a Saga going off, basically about to ultimate. And I was like, okay, if they get Lantern, I'm pretty screwed. But if I can get them to get Grindstone and commit basically all their mana to activate it right away, then I can win. Because why? Haha, Julian, sometimes he thinks. He's got Simian Spirit Guide in hand and Goblin Engineer. So the opponent fell right fucking for it. He goes through it, he tries to mill me out. I'm like, Simian Spirit Guide, activate Engineer, put Painter into Graveyard, get something else back. And I was like, I felt so smart because I was about to win on my turn.
That beautiful monkey.
Yeah, it's so beautiful until I turned into a monkey and I completely needlessly made a constructed end of turn when I was about to win with Grindstone and I had to pay 2 mana for it with Ancient Tomb, and I was just like, let's just get this over with. Okay, let's go into auto brain mode and everything. And then on my turn I realized, Julian, you're so stupid. Like, because I needed to tap my Ancient Tomb.
7 life.
I was at 7 life. I went to 5 life. Dude, I laugh how you can actually sense this without even
I know what happened. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can guess. Yep.
Yeah. So on my turn, I had to make the decision. Do I mill him out by tapping my Ancient Tomb, going to 3, which would still allow me to use my second Engineer because I only had like 3 mountains or something? Or do I go for tapping my mountains, but then I can't use my second Engineer in case he has like Fairy Macabre or Surgical or whatever? So I decided to play around Graveyard Hate instead of the Lightning Bolt that he might have in hand. And that was just like stupid for so many reasons. I'm not going to go into that. Like, even like thinking back to my opponent's turn, of course, he was heavily incentivized to use his Graveyard Hate right away because I was about to untap into 2 Engineers. I should have thought about that. I didn't. I was just like brain dead. And
the 2 obvious ones is like they could bolt the Engineer first and then Grindstone you. But
they had no mana. They had no mana.
Fine.
They had to discard the hand for a Dragon Engine because once I did that, they still had the mana or to get out a Dragon Engine.
Makes it.
And
okay.
then they discarded the hand, drew 3 cards, and were tapped out. So at that point, the only thing they can have is Graveyard Hate or a Bolt, but the Bolt doesn't kill me if I don't turn off my brain.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mill them. And I will not forget this. I take their Exile into my hand. I go through it. Oh, not the Exile, the Graveyard. I go through it and I count 2 bolts. And I literally look up at my opponent who has like the biggest shit-eating grin.
How many do you play?
Yeah, exactly. My last hope is that they would side out a bolt, which like doesn't make sense because you have too much stuff to side out anyway in that matchup.
Some play 3 as well. So if I was your opponent, I would like milk it and be like, do I play 2? Do I play 3? I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, I passed and I died on my opponent's upkeep. So at that point, I was like 5-2 or something, 5-3 instead of like the 6-2 that I worked so hard for. And something died in me, and I think at that point, I played another round and I lost, and that's me being out of the tournament at that point.
These situations, although it stings now and you're going to remember it for a while, they are just such good lessons as long as you can take that away from it. So, this punt will stay for a while, but every time you're in a similar spot where like you're just going to be so much more conscious of your life total in these kind of situations in the future when it matters like that. Like, I think you've been in these situations before because you played for so long, but someone a bit newer to the deck may just autopilot, making construct even faster, and then you'll lose to these kind of situations. And then next time this happens, you're like, wait, I know what happened last time. My brain is telling me to stop doing that. So it is a brilliant lesson to learn, although it hurts sometimes as well.
Yeah, I very much agree. And as you mentioned, your brain is going to tell you to not do that automatically, which frees up so much more space, to think about other stuff. And that's the beauty, because in the end, if you had time, like if you had 2 hours to think about every play, we would make a lot fewer misplays. But if you could just like, it's basically like chess, right? It's easier to play like with a 50-minute time limit than a 3-minute time limit. And yeah, I messed up. I got better for it. It's unfortunate that it happened at a big event, but I mean, yeah. It's basically how I imagine it, right? You get hit, you bleed, then you harden at that point, and then you become a better player. That's literally how I imagine it every time I make a mistake. Like I've got like, I don't know, scars all over my body from times I got better, and it sounds so like dramatic, but that's basically how I imagine becoming a better Magic player.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Also, fun story to lighten the mood there. I played against a guy. No offense to you, but I mean you're the victim of your own making in that game. It's like I played against a guy who constantly commented how he doesn't like Legacy. It's like he also mentioned how he doesn't like my deck because he only likes playing with old cards. I was like, hey, is Goblin Welder not good for you? Okay, Grindstone.
Paint is like it's like half its new cards, but it's a very old deck with lots of old cards as well.
Yeah, I was like, the opponent was playing Sneak and Show and had like a truck sign Griselbrand and like.
Of course.
Come on, dude.
Griselbrand is like the godfather of bullshit new cards.
I was just gonna say, like, if they played Draco or like some other, like,
Show and Tell Draco. That I could respect, like, or Show and Tell Verdant Force or something.
I think the like newest creatures they're allowed to play with these comments is Progenitus and Woodfall Primus. Everything else, nah.
Oh yeah. See, that would be a statement. Instead, I think it was so funny because Sneak Show is like basically one of our worst matchups, and I lost to it in the feature match, unfortunately. But then I won against that guy, and that guy even like he looked at Fable, and I mean, credit to him, he actually did that thing where he read almost all my cards, which a lot of people I think they don't read their opponent's cards enough because they feel embarrassed for it. So that was certainly like a good thing to do. But then he read Fable, then he spell pierced it, and then when spell pierced is often my Fable got countered, he did like a fist pump, but he was like, yes, 2-for-1. And I was like, why is it 2-for-1?
It's actually like a 3-for-1 for sure.
The Goblin and the Fable. And I was like, oh, like what? No, that's not how it works.
No, that's how it works. It's the Goblin, the Fable, and the other side, and the loot. It's like 5-for-1.
It's basically Ancestor Recall if you counter the Fable. Yeah, you heard it here first, right, guys? Okay, if you force it, you're still up a card. That's how it works.
Dude, like next time when you force a 4th Eolingus X10, that's like a 2-for-12 or whatever.
Yeah, that maths.
That card
Okay.
did so much work in that event. People always ask me about, hey, the White Splash, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think the Swords to Plowshares is just as much worth it as the 4th Erlingers, but maybe the 4th Erlingers is even more worth it. And I had so much fun with that card. I won, especially against, like, I put it in because I wanted to have something better against 4-color control, but I've talked about this on previous episodes, I'm pretty sure. But then it turned out to be also good against basically any mid-range deck and even against some combo decks. Oh, dude, I also lost to that Doomsday player who, Sebastian Ziller, I believe. Shoutouts if you're listening to this. He went like almost all the way to top 8. I think he went 8-1-1 and got 9th place, which is like tragic.
Dude, this is like the saddest story ever, because he came over to my booth before the last round, and it's like, dude, Kai, I'm playing your exact 75, and I'm 8-1 or like something like, or like 8-1-1. And I'm basically locked for top 8. And I like we already celebrated at my booth, right? I was like, dude, like, heck yeah.
Oh, God.
First of all, I'm also so happy because it's also like, it was my deck, right? Like the deck I built and I played so often on stream. And he said like he watched my stream like all the time, and he had so much fun prepping, and now he's like nearly undefeated, and he can't really believe it. And then like an hour later, I found out from another player that he had to play the last round, I think, against Julian Jakobowicz, Juju Bean 2004, and he got crushed. And
that was on camera, I think.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, and he ended up being 9th place.
Game. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, dude! I felt so sorry.
When you think about it, like you're 8-0 in a 10-round event. Even if you like draw once and lose, you would think you'd still have like good enough tiebreakers. Yeah. Honestly, like looking back, oh my god, like it was pretty close. I lost my last round, and I didn't even properly play my last round. Like I literally less than half-assed my last round because it was like 5-3, and I just like forgot to drop, and like I wasn't really into it. Now I'm wondering, had I dropped, like his tiebreaker would be better because I would be 5-3 and not 5-4. Like, oh my god. Oh god, no, I feel guilty.
It's the small things, but you can't think like that. It's your tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think like that at all.
No.
But I'm just mentioning it.
But Julian, nonetheless, I think it's still like a decent run. It's not the best run, obviously, but like playing a long tournament like this is not like, I saw many exhausted faces, especially after round 7 or so. Like people were ready for some drinks rather than like the last couple of like Magic rounds. And also like this is completely not like, this is not on you guys or like none of the players. It was the event hall, like it got really humid and warm, I think, after like after the first couple of rounds. Like the air conditioner didn't probably work.
Was there even air conditioning?
I don't even know, man. Like it was
kind of like this huge dome surrounded by another room, so it kind of created its own microclimate.
Yeah, it was like
things
it got
growing in there.
Yeah, dude. Like
they're called Magic players. Ugh.
It was kind of unbearable, honestly.
Oh, by the way, Kai, I just realized, you know what you should, like, we talk so much about your booth. You should almost like have your own like podcast where you like talk about just like your booth and stuff, because like even before we started, we talked for like 10 minutes about Kai's booth, and I guess we will speak about it even more later on. But what I just realized is you should sell some drinks and snacks. Honestly,
that's on my to-do list. So I spent a decent amount of time that weekend with Anurag Das and Roland Chang. Shout out to you guys. We talked about all the different things we can do and to improve Anurag's stream, but also Salatarix and like future ideas. And one of the crazy ideas was to basically do Salatarix beer.
Oh yeah.
I can't brew myself.
There must be some kind of white label beer that you like slap Salatarix on and
yeah,
sell
dude,
it.
Something like that. I gotta like look into this kind of stuff, but
no, but seriously, I don't know if there's like some limitations on it, but I would just be like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. You know what I mean?
Yeah, imagine if there's like a little like mini fridge or something,
because like a lot of event areas, at least in Europe, they suck at like catering. Like this one was just the same, right? They had this bar and they were like, we don't accept euros and we don't accept card because the card machine didn't work. So shout outs to Martin and like some other patrons that I met up with. They literally gave me Czech crowns so I could buy some food at the event.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, that was messed up too. Like a lot of people couldn't get their drinks.
Yeah, drinks was okay. I even had like my flask that I brought something in, and like I had some snacks, and then at some point you gave me like a snack, but the availability of catering, you had to walk for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then there was like another bar which accepted card.
Yeah.
But the only food they had was ice cream, which is like when it's like 5 degrees outside, I'm not feeling like ice cream.
But imagine like if I do like everyday eternal drinks, like what? And I do a Julian drink, a Callum drink, and a Kai drink. Like what would that be?
Mine would be like I don't know, like a very hazy IPA or a stout.
Dude,
But the thing is, for me, it would just be sparkling water.
Yeah.
Like it literally would just be sparkling water, nothing
Hey,
else.
you guys
So
are just
German.
you guys are just naming your favorite drinks.
Of course. What else would they be?
I don't know.
I have to identify with the product I'm branded on or something.
Yeah.
Fine, I'm gonna be like a very expensive, strong, mysterious absinthe.
No, I kind of like the IPA
I'm gonna be
better.
champagne. Like you can say champagne, and the winner of the tournament is gonna you're gonna provide the champagne bottle for the winner of the tournament.
Oh my goodness, dude.
And then they can spray champagne all over the players with their like expensive magic cards. Yeah, that's gonna be amazing.
Everyone listen to this. Like, even just do it immediately. Go and tag Kai on Twitter and like tell him what you think his drink would be. You can make fun of him if you want. What is
Oh my
Kai's
goodness,
drink?
dude. Please don't say Mountain Dew.
Dude, I know
God.
I know exactly what Kai's drink is gonna be. It's gonna be just like, you know natto and how it's slimy, and then if you take that slime and then you put it into
Oh man, dude.
a drink.
I expected like trash water, so that's
Trash.
Oh,
water.
like you go a completely different route, and you have like a strawberry themed drink, and you just like you put the sickest, most badass Savatarix art on it, and you call it the blood of your slain enemies or something.
God damn.
I'm very bad at inventing drinks. I'm
No,
better at coming up
no.
with safaris.
That was actually not too bad. Actually, I might like it.
Oh, some kind of like anti-mulligan juice. Like you drink it, like you take less money if you're mulligans.
That's a pretty
dude.
funny idea. That's cool.
Dude.
Okay.
Damn, strong marketing. Yeah.
Okay.
Anti-mulligan juice. That's good. It's so dumb.
Top deck potion or something.
Top deck potion.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Dear listener, this is not scripted at all, but it's going to be coming to an eternal weekend near you soon.
This is called doping.
Dude, we actually have some kind of script, but we are completely like with my very first word, we went completely off the script.
Dude, like I think
notes.
like the last 15 minutes or so were absolute off script.
Oh, do you need to do like a MTGO whitelist one as well?
Is that still available? Dude, by the way, did you know that there literally is a whitelist on the MTGO? Like we joked about it for so many years.
Yeah, it's just me.
We actually don't know how it works, but when you deconstruct Magic Online and you look into it, they internally the software uses something that the software itself refers to as a whitelist. And I don't know what that actually does, but if you deconstruct Magic Online, you will literally find references to a so-called whitelist. And I can only like guess what that means, but yeah, it's it's kind of funny that for like 10 years we joked about like getting a subscription to the whitelist of MTGO, like getting good matchups, no mulligans, and then like you deconstruct the software and you literally find references to it. So it's like maybe it's an in joke or some kind of like every software engineer out there is gonna be like, oh my god, Julian, every software uses a whitelist. You just like so stupid. And I'm like, okay.
The whitelist, I don't think it's worth it. Like I signed up for it and I did get good matchups every single time, but I always lose them. I'm a really good player. I always lose them though, so I don't think it's worth it personally.
It sounds like you should also like sign up somebody to play your matches for you, so you can just like sit there and watch.
I signed you two up to play for me, and that's why I lose so much.
And that surely isn't against every term of service or something.
No, of course not. No.
Okay, guys, should we look into the 2 Eternal Weekends? And before we do that, very, very quickly, just ever so quickly, big shout outs to Hate at OSEP on Twitter. Japanese Magic player who just won the 300-something Legacy Showcase Challenge.
Huge event.
Playing, I don't even know where to start. I guess we're going to call it Mono Blue Thought Lash.
Yeah, it's like, people just call it Lash, but like, or Thought Lash, or like...
Oh, that's like an invert for it. Like, oh, people just call it Lash, Julian. You're so like,
you idiot.
not
God,
cool.
yeah.
Like, you're spelling it out entirely. Like, no, just call it the Lash.
The Lash.
I mean, most people might know it under like paradigm shift combo, but
yeah.
Lash.deck is also fine, I suppose.
It does have a really, really great name. I think kinda Patrick from London made it up. He calls it... Have you guys seen Flash Gordon?
Oh, is that like some superhero, some American superhero?
It's an old like superhero film. It's really cheesy, but it's like brilliant. Like it's such a good film. But they call it Lash Gordon.
Dude, look at the numbers on that deck. So very quickly, I guess, before we go into like something else, it plays for Paradigm Shift, it plays for Thought Lash, which allows you to clear out your library, and then you win with Thotha's Oracle, ideally of Cavern of Souls. So it's like the opposite of Upsal spells in terms of speed, but it's more resilient, or is it even? And then, like, to make all of this work, we play a couple of cards around it. Like, we play 3 Step Through, so we can actually find Thassa's Oracle, or also the Magus of the Moon in the sideboard, which happens to be a wizard, so it's so genius.
Yeah. I think, my highlight for of the main deck is a single Brainstorm.
See, that's the beauty, right?
Perfect.
The creator looked at this and was like, okay, 59 cards. What is the last card I need?
I think I can give you no.
You can splash a Brainstorm.
No, I can give you a reasoning for it. It's definitely not the last card. So there's a single Spellseeker. You can get Spellseeker with a Step Through. So if you just need, like, if you have some dead cards in hand, or like, flooding a bit, it's better you want to find a cantrip. So because the deck has very few shuffle effects, it has 2 Lorien Reveals and 3 Step Throughs that shuffle, I think. So after that, it's not playing any Ponder. It's got Preordains and Impulses as kind of like ways to dig to find your action pieces. But if you just have a bad hand, you might want Brainstorm over Preordain. Otherwise, Preordain is generally better than Brainstorm in this deck. So there's some reasoning I'm trying to give you. That's
Dude,
okay.
So you're telling me that, like, in order to cast a Brainstorm, I have to first cycle for 2 mana, then play a dumb 1/1 for 3 mana, and then I can finally cast
a 6 mana Brainstorm.
It's a 6 mana Brainstorm, dude.
Okay, I would also only play a single copy if it was a 6 mana Brainstorm.
Yeah, it's 6 mana. It probably takes me like 3 turns to cast it. Like
it literally takes 3 turns to cast it.
I'm just giving some reasons.
One thing about Preordain though, like Preordain is actually insane in this deck list because of like how well it plays together with Thought Lash. Like everything you can scribe Thassa on the bottom, and then you know for a fact that there's Thassa on bottom. There's no fetch lands in the deck, so you can literally exile the whole library except the last card, which is the Thassa's Oracle, right? You can, dude, scrying is key in this.
That's why you brainstorm a Thassa's Oracle back to the top, and then you scry it to the bottom.
After you spend 6 mana,
Dude, I saw this in the coverage for Eternal Weekend Japan, which is only like VODs on YouTube. They didn't have live coverage. Somebody had 14 cards left in their library, and don't ask me why, but the opponent milled the top 13. Could be an archive trap, which would be like super uncommon, but maybe that was it. And then literally the last card was Thassa's Oracle, and he just flipped it over and did like that awkward celebration where you like raise your hands, but you don't properly raise them. So you're like, hey. And maybe that was actually it. Maybe that was.
I watched it, but on mute today, and I think it's
because listening to the Japanese coverage would have helped.
I was at work, like not working, but I think the player cast it on themselves. I think the deck is meant to like just naturally draw and mill yourself out and play Oracle.
Okay,
and they were like, dead on
yourself?
board. I think that's the thing. Archive Trap is not in Pioneer though.
Target opponent mills. That wasn't Pioneer.
I don't think it was an Archive Trap.
Okay, but I just know that the opponent had like 14 cards and 13 got milled, and then the last card was Oracle.
I think it was another card and them milling themselves, I think.
Okay.
Anyway. But cool. Paradigm Shift is way better at that.
Very, very much so. Dude, in the first round at Eternal Weekend, somebody was sitting right next to me, and I kid you not, turn 2, they cast Thought Knot Seer. Okay, I mean, it's a little outdated, like it's an old code, but it checks out.
Yeah.
And on turn 3, do you know what they cast on turn 3? You will literally never guess.
Reality Smasher.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing, dude. Like, Endless One.
They cast Goblin Charbelcher.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it.
Turn 2, Thought Knot Seer. Okay, the coast is clear. Okay, let me get down my Goblin Charbelcher. And I was like, oh, is this just like a value?
What did they cast it off?
Ancient Tombs and stuff.
Oh, they play Mana Severance.
Yeah, they did. You got it figured out right away. Like for a second, I was like, dude, is this just like a value Charbelcher, like the world's worst curse scroll, basically?
Oh my god, Mana Severance Eldrazi. Oh god, that's wild.
Yeah. And I saw him like close-ish to me in the next round, so I think he might have actually won the first round. So sick. I don't know.
I mean, with a curve like that, yeah.
If you curve into your like turn 3 value Belcher.
If I was the opponent, I'd be like, oh, fucking nut draws.
Absolutely not drawn. Yeah. Dude, yeah, but that was great. So shout outs to Hate on OSIB on Twitter for playing this beauty of a deck. And
to add to this won the showcase, and someone topped forward the Saturday challenge with Thought Lash as well.
Oh, is this the future? Is this the future we aren't ready for?
One brainstorm is the future, baby.
I played 3 brainstorms in decks before, but that was like in a borrowed deck. That was like when my friend Sergey at Bazaar of Moxnet for like a side event on Sunday, he was like, "Hey Julian, let's switch decks," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess it's a side event, and I like Sergey, so let's do it." And he gave me his Shardless Buck, which no, he gave me his 12 post, right? And his 12 post played 3 copies of.
I used to play 2 brainstorm in like blue green 12 post. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wait, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of bad because you very rarely have more than one blue source in play at a time, and you like didn't have that many shuffle effects. But you had like green sun targets and other things that you wanted to shuffle back, and like crop rotation targets. So you wanted to draw like 0.8 of a brainstorm every game, kind of thing. It was
Okay. I'm gonna trust you on that.
Stop bullying me. Yeah.
Cool. So, guys, should we take a look at the metagames that actually presented themselves at these 2 events? So, in Europe, we had close to 800 signups. The TO told me that there were like 80 no-shows. This one source said we had 713 players. I think on the ground they said something about 730 or 40 players. So something between 700 and 750 players in Europe, which is like an insane turnout.
Do you remember what we kind of guessed and predicted? Because I don't really.
I knew I was rather negative about it. I was like, people don't really know what Eternal Weekend is in Europe, but I guess they do now. So I guessed like less than 4 seasons, so less than like 450 or something.
Yeah.
And it was almost double that.
I think I remember saying like 500 to 600, and then us feeling like that was on the higher side. Or maybe it was like 700-800. Yeah.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
This is more than I could ever hope for. There have been GPs in the past that were smaller than this. I remember one particular in I think Mexico that had like 500 something players. So this is literally the biggest legacy event in Europe ever since GP Bologna 2019.
Heck
Amazing.
yeah, it's great.
Guys like, oh, okay, whatever, dude. No, but this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. And it was also kind of interesting because we had to do signups online and pay online ahead of time, and there was literally no way to sign up for it on the spot.
I've heard of some people not able to play. Well, I don't know if they got sorted out in the end. I expect.
I don't think so. Like the TO just told me, hey, this is like. Well, I guess I shouldn't reveal too much, but basically the idea was that for a TO, this is kind of cool because now you have people signing up who otherwise might not have come or only decided on short notice, but because they really wanted to secure their spots, they signed up. And like for the TO, in the end, it doesn't matter whether the person shows up or not, right?
Yeah.
But for the TO, it matters whether somebody who might have not shown up at all still registers and pays ahead of time because they are scared that there might be that the event might sell out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at tickets like from when they first put it up, it sold out, quote unquote, like 3 times. And I'm really, really not a fan of that kind of selling tactic. I think it's a bit shitty, but
I know what you mean. That's basically what I'm getting at it.
Yeah. So that was a low point of like just watching the event go on. But I mean, the thing is, they could have had a different venue in mind. They could have like a smaller one, but they didn't book it yet. I think this probably did exceed their expectations.
Especially at a hotel that has like this many conference rooms. Maybe there actually was a thing where they literally had to upgrade to the bigger conference room. So
for sure.
Not giving them too much shit for that. Definitely giving them shit for like not having the kind of prices that Card Titan is putting up for the North American version. And I mean, people have talked about that enough. There's not too much to go into there. But yeah, 713 players. And this is the metagame that we saw. And I think this is kind of what we expected. 10% 4-color beanstalk or 5-color beanstalk. I think actually that, by the way, we're drawing our stats from mtgdex.net. So shout outs to them for putting all of this together, including the matchup data that we're going to get to in a moment. So 10% for 5-color domain beanstalk, as they call it. And this is just fucking Europe, right? Especially the Italians, but also the Germans to a degree. Like, people just love these kinds of grindy, dirty, mid-range control decks.
Heck yeah.
At the same time, 10% being the highest representation is pretty good.
That's a good number,
Yeah,
really.
that's very healthy, really.
I think for paper, that's more of a thing, right? I remember back in the days, Canadian Threshold was called the 9% deck because literally no event would ever have more than 9% of a single deck. Okay. So yeah, as you guys mentioned, like 10%, it's on the high end already. I don't want the metagame to like have more of something like that, but 10%
to me, my
tolerable.
like mental thing is like 13, 14 is where it's problematic numbers.
Very much
but
so.
10 feels like a fine one to be at the top.
Yeah. Especially if it's such a clunky, stupid deck.
Also, you probably want to mention that the Domain Beanstalk deck, this is just the main category, and under Domain Beanstalk, there are like 4 or 5 subcategories, right, of like 4-color Beanstalk decks that go like Murktide Regent, and then or like 5-color decks with like maybe the Ring, maybe almost no creatures except Uro. There's like so many different, what they all have in common is like a terrible mana base. And and up the beanstalk somewhere, but like if you trigger them with Triumph of St. Catherine or like Hooting Mandrills or I don't even know, if you're a 4-H, it doesn't really matter, right? Like
this is when you go to the supermarket and go to the different soup section.
Oh,
and it's just all different flavors, all different kinds, but they're all soups.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think they had one extra category, which was like I think 3 or 4 color Uro, which I believe literally were decks without Beanstalk or Ring. Okay. So yeah, but you guys make a good point. So it's there are certain differences between, let's say, proper 5-color and then there's like 4-color without red, 4-color without black, and that kind of stuff. So there's differences for sure.
Yeah, we're not even talking about Yorion, right? Like there are like so many different options how to play Beanstalk.
It's actually like a lot of different colors of soup. You got me.
Yes.
Cool. Then second most played deck. This one is actually shared between Blue Black Scam and Grixis Tempo, they call it. I guess Grixis Delver, and sometimes they are Delverless, so that makes sense. 2 basically Tempo decks. Then 4th place, and I think not a lot of people expected that, it's lands in 6%.
Crazy.
I've been to tournaments like in MKM Rome where the lands was literally the most played deck in the meta game. Now it's in 4th place. I think that could also be like a thing of just like, if you're a lands player, you are a lands player, and you play lands like even if you play any kind of board game, you are the lands player guy.
I was about to make the exact same comment. It's an expensive deck with Tabernacle and Mox Diamonds, and it's a very, very loved deck by players, and it's quite an old deck, so you've got a lot more paper players than online as well. And yeah, if you're a lands player, you play lands and you like lands. Obviously, there's lots of exceptions. There's people that have multiple decks, or there's people that jump between. But I think it's one of these decks that has a really dedicated player base. So I'm not surprised to see higher numbers. I am surprised to see how it did, which we'll find out soon. But
I played against lands. Mm-hmm. I played against one lands guy in the tournament, and the whole match was like glacial. Oh my. And I think I won the first game after literally 50 minutes.
Holy shit.
50 minutes. It took forever because, I mean, that's getting into too much stuff. It basically took forever. Mm-hmm. And at some point, like I was basically dead for most of the match, but I felt like, you're leaving the door open just enough for me to still hang in there instead of trying to win the second or the third game. And literally after 15 minutes, I could like grind out a niche where I was just able to kill him with Painter Grindstone and get there. And yeah, needless to say, like his face was like, oh, this is not gonna end well for me now, right?
That's the match.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. Then we got 5% shared between 8cast, Painter, and Boros Initiative. I guess no surprises there, especially 8cast, considering that it has like no reserved list cards, is very popular. And to round it out at 4%, we got Blue Black Shadow, Reanimator, and hey, Death in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense.
This is like looks really healthy to me. Good spread, a lot of decks that people like and are good. Seems really cool.
Mm.
Also, surprisingly little combo.
Yeah,
right? I look at it.
I was just gonna mention that, but it's probably based on the second and the third most played deck, like Demir, Scam, and Grixis Tempo, like those decks, just keeping combo decks in check, especially Sneak and Show and Doomsday, stuff like that.
Combo didn't do badly though, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of on the players, but you said your friend came 9th with Doomsday. Mark DeBayesh is obviously.
Oh, dude, are we talking about Mark? Because I gotta confess something, right? Like, I'm Kai Savatari, and I'm the official biggest fanboy of Mark Tobias.
I've been a long-term fan as well because he's such a brewer and plays his own things and does his own thing. I'm a huge fan of it.
Did you see that he also he was the only undefeated player in the main event in Asia too?
Yep.
Oh, he was like there were 2 undefeated players, right? And he played against Upsal Spurs and lost at 8-0.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Now that we're at it, let's actually get straight into that. We're going to talk about the Japanese metagame in a moment because that had some surprises.
Yep.
Mark and another guy were the only 8-0s in the tournament out of 10 rounds, and at that point, it's. I don't want to say it's safe to draw because we just talked about Sebastian Ziller who did that and then had to play the last round and got 9th place. But if Mark posted on Twitter that he actually was safe to draw. Pretty much, looking at tiebreakers and stuff, but his like jet-lag brain didn't like think about it. He could have literally drawn in the 9th or the 10th round and been in. He played both and lost both, which is so tragic, right? Oh my god! Like you could have literally top-8'd both events, maybe even won the Japanese event. And yeah, he lost to Upsal Spurs, and I don't know what he lost against in the 10th round, but at 8-2, there was no chance he was going to make it. So
sucks so much. I love how he can just absolutely crush with Doomsday, but then his jet lag brain can't work out like pairings and stuff.
Yeah, because you already use all your brain power for Doomsday piles.
I suppose
right?
so. I suppose.
Yeah.
Is there, by the way, Kai, is there some kind of like dance around how you agree on an ID in Japan? Is that like a cultural thing, or is it just like with us where you just like you sit down, hey, ID, okay, GG?
Like ID, no, I think it's pretty much the same. But Japanese tend to be too polite to offer it sometimes because they don't want to step on someone's toe, because they don't know for sure if both players are gonna make it, right? And imagine if the other player doesn't make it, that'll be like a really feel bad moment.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So I'm saying like I had a couple of situations where I comfortably drew into even top 16 or whatever, but you see this stuff more often in European countries, I want to say, especially where people love to negotiate and like talk about their odds and things like that.
Oh, is that our reputation in Europe that we are like negotiators, bargainers?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
That was like the first impression I got when I moved back from Japan to Europe.
I mean, I certainly have a couple of people in mind who are very much like that in Europe to the point where it actually pisses off a lot of other people. But yeah, like sometimes that they discuss more about like the odds of making it or not, like, and that takes longer than the actual game. I'm like, okay. That's true.
Yeah, but
it's even worse when it happens on a camera feature match.
Yeah, it should not happen. I think they also pick pairings that are not safe to draw, right? Because otherwise it would be kind of awkward.
I once made top 8 at an MKM. It was MKM Frankfurt 2017. I was like a giant one. And playing the last round, I won. And my opponent was like, good, congratulations for top 8. And I told him, no, I literally made 9th place. I'm like next to 100% sure. And then when they called out the top 8, they were like, and in 8th place, Julian Knapp. And I was like, whoa, how did that happen? Because I literally did the tiebreaker math and it made absolutely no sense. And I even wrote an entire article about this afterwards, why this happened. And you know what happened in that event? They picked table 2 for the feature match, which was safe to draw. Both players were safe to draw into top 8. But the players were like, hey, they picked us for the feature match. This is weird. Like, maybe we shouldn't draw. And then they played it out, and the guy who lost actually ended up behind me, and that's how I got into 9th place.
Oh, crazy.
And into 8th place.
Yeah.
So in a way, the TO screwed up because they picked a match that was safe to draw. But yeah, what can you do?
God damn it. Well, yeah, dude, like big shout outs to Mark. Like I also talked to Mark after the main event. Like he was super exhausted, but we basically like he also knew about my Doomsday build and like we talked about like the old differences because the decks have almost nothing in common. It's crazy to say. Like I played a league just before the stream, just before the recording here session, and I almost trophied. I lost the third game for the trophy against a really skilled Naya Devs player who knew exactly what to do against Doomsday. But this Mark Tobias Doomsday deck is a good stuff, right? Dude. It's a good stuff deck. It's a control deck that eventually wins with Doomsday, whereas my Doomsday deck is a combo deck that also runs counter magic.
That's a good way to put it. And I think a lot of like the successful Doomsday decks in the past, they also had that aspect of like, hey, I'm a control deck, and then my win condition is Doomsday instead of like Chase or whatever, right?
Yeah, like dude, like Mark's deck goes tundra, tropical, island.
And you sometimes don't even know it's Doomsday, right?
Yeah,
doesn't he also have like Satsu Plowshares?
It's a
I
banned,
think in the sideboard or something.
In Prismatic Ending, it's a banned mana base almost with a couple of Underground Seas, I guess. But
so at some point, like if you happen to, I don't know, Surgical Extract, Dark Ritual, he's almost struggling to cast Doomsday.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, that deck is insane, and I've seen it on camera, and also I've seen your stream with it, and the ring does a lot of work. I mean, the ring is almost the dream card for Doomsday, except for that it costs 4 mana, which makes the whole thing a little bit more awkward. But if you ever get the ring down, I mean, yeah, of course, every legacy deck is great if you have the ring, but I feel especially Doomsday is completely insane once you get the ring down.
Yeah, like, I mean, drawing extra cards with the One Ring is already powerful, but if you know the cards you're gonna draw with the One Ring, that's even better.
Yeah.
Right?
It's completely broken.
That's like Demonic Tutor for free times X.
So Mark got the top 4 in Europe. He got I guess he would have still gotten top 16 in Japan. He virtually was top 8 at some point. And America, he's coming for you. From what I've seen, from the way he posted on Twitter, it very much looked like he's also going to fly to the US to play in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Mark, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. America, like, is that the easiest? Are you saying that's the easy Eternal Weekend, like North America?
Oh, that's gonna be the easiest one. But
is it? Say the 3 like European guys on the cast.
I think there are a couple of skilled Doomsday players in the US, like Max Carini, for example, like Wonder Pro. I could definitely see him in one of the top seeds of the main event.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, shoutouts to HJ Kaiser. Like, HJ also got really close to making top 8 in Japan. Mm-hmm. He went to the Vintage Finals in Europe and lost there. But he also went 8-2 in Japan. And we always talk about, right, when is he going to complete the Triple Crown? Because HJ, he's got an Eternal Weekend win in Europe. He's got an Eternal Weekend win in North America. We're all waiting for him to complete the Triple Crown and get the Eternal Weekend win in Asia.
He'll do it for sure. I hate to say it because it's like I'm just numb to him doing well. I was out while the Vintage was streaming. I came back just when the finals was like starting. I turned it on and I wasn't like, oh, hey, it's a friend in the finals. Awesome. It was like, oh, it's HJ, of course. just so like, of course, he's the thing is, like, good.
I think he's got like a second baby in the making or something. I think he talked about how he might have to scale back like his domination and crushing of international tournaments.
For a second. No.
Yeah, that was actually the biggest talk. I feel that weekend everybody was talking about how they have like babies coming up and everything is gonna change. So yeah, let's see how Magic is gonna change for that. Okay, that's a little bit too deep.
Yeah. So what was the metagame like in
Japan? Okay,
yeah.
So Japan had 658 players, and holy fuck, dude, this is the most flavorful first most played deck I could ever imagine for Japan.
I'm pretty sure you photoshopped this, but like, what?
The most played deck in Eternal Weekend Legacy Asia in Japan was Sneak and Show at 7%.
Yeah.
How?
This is almost like, this is so stereotypical. Like, Japan likes big, scary monsters like Godzilla and I don't know, like, what other big Gundams, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not monsters, but they're still big and scary. And it's literally the most played deck. I mean, it shares the top spot with Rock Tempo at also 7%, but yeah, it's listed as the most played deck here. Kai, has that been your experience playing in Japan, that they just like love Sneak and Show?
Yeah, that was also the case like a couple of years ago in like 2018 and 17, like when I was really active and in the legacy scene in Tokyo. Sneak, I really don't know what's up with Sneak and Show, but it's almost like a party game, right? Like where you
spin the wheel.
Yeah, you cast your show until, and you know it's like, okay, haha, let's flip the card and see what happens, kind of thing. And
what did you bring to the party?
I don't know. It's quick, it's easy, it's consistent, and I also know a bunch of people who already like foiled out the Sneak and Show decks entirely.
I've never known Sneak Show.
I don't know.
Like,
dude, like apparently, like Sneak Show is like a lifestyle in Japan. Not so much in Europe.
Sneak and Show lifestyle.
Like, yeah, dude, like, I mean, we call it like Ape and Show and like the monkey deck, you know? Yeah. And Japanese are kind of like celebrating it. I don't know what's going on.
Fair enough to them.
But yeah, second most played Rock Tempo, third and fifth most played deck, all at 6%, are once again Grixis Tempo, Reanimator, and Boros Initiative. Dude, the Reanimator in fourth place, like they really love the big scary monsters over there.
Oh yeah.
Then we got Beanstalk at 5%, like the domain Beanstalk shared with Blue Black Scam, followed by Death and Taxes 4%, then Painter at 4%, and 12 Post at 4%. So once you take away like Sneak and Show at the top, it looks similar-ish to Europe, right? There's nothing that really sticks out there. I think these are pretty much the same decks except for 12 Post.
Yeah, there's no 8 cast.
Yeah, because like Japanese players, they have like all the decks and all the money.
Yeah,
I mean that's totally the most bullshit explanation I could come up with.
Yeah, it probably was just like a bit lower, I guess. But
yeah, I would guess so. So yeah, guys, should we? The most interesting thing to me was because MTG Decks not only gives us the meta and what's it called? It's actually called mtgdecks.net. There's too many MTG websites, MTG Top 8 and MTG Decks, MTG whatever. They also give us the win rates. And of course, it only makes sense once you look at a certain sample size. And even at, for example, 200 matches, it's still somewhat too small, I guess. But it's a good cutoff because at that point you catch a lot of the most played decks. So what we did is we looked at the most played decks in Europe, those who have at least 200 matches locked in these respective events, Europe and Japan. And we ranked them by win rate. So let's start with Europe. And in Europe, to my surprise and pleasure, the deck that had the highest win rate at 56% was actually Painter.
Hey,
let's go.
Let's go, Painter, right? It shares the top spot with Boros Initiative, so both are 56%.
Plateau Master Race.
Who would have thought, right? To me, it was like more about Ancient Tomb. I think like a year ago,
Yes.
we called it the Ancient Tomb as the best card in Legacy at this point. Like,
I still think
these
it
days,
is.
You still think it is?
Yeah, it's tied with Brainstorm to me now.
Yeah, but some people only play one Brainstorm. The decline of Brainstorm is going to be the episode title, right?
Don't do it, no. Brainstorm is a
let's
lot
see.
better than it was recently, but I still think Ancient Tomb is like, yeah, tied, but maybe the best.
Kai, is there a Doomsday deck we can make with Ancient Tomb? Like, it goes against everything Doomsday wants to do.
Unban Astrolabe, you
Dude,
can.
I'm just thinking like, so if you play Brainstorm and Ancient Tomb, it has to be the best deck in Legacy, right?
Definitely. Yep, that's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? The thing about these two decks is actually I thought about this on the way home from work today. Because traditionally, what we did with Ancient Tomb is we fueled some kind of combo, right? Mostly like, not traditionally, but I think if your opponent goes turn 1 Ancient Tomb, you think Show and Tell. You didn't think like, I don't know, Chalice or whatever. It became a thing then for a couple of years, especially during the Miracle years where it went more into that. But now that's less of a thing, and I think also Chalice is less of a thing. I think we are back at where Ancient Tomb is more like some random mid-range deck as Painter or Boros Initiative. So what I'm trying to talk myself into is the whole idea of whether there are more mid-range decks out there that utilize Ancient Tomb that are not completely all in on the whole Stompy idea. For example, Painter is a good example, right? We just use it. I guess Urza's Saga is a piece of the puzzle there because Urza's Saga and Ancient Tomb pair up so well.
I think without Saga, Ancient Tomb would be back out of the question, and like Brainstorm is by far the best, but Saga is part of the puzzle for sure. I mean, Initiative doesn't play Saga, but almost all the others do. There's like the mono black kind of Helm or not Helm decks. Some play it, some don't. It's a mix, but I think
Acast does as well, right?
Yes. So Acast and Painter obviously do, and some of the mono black kind of Helmy decks do as well. It's
Is there
Ancient Tomb
like a
in
green
lands a bit
deck
as well.
that can use it?
There probably is, honestly. There's a lot of really cool dinosaurs in the new set.
Sylvan Pluck coming back. Here we go.
Yeah. Khan and Ancient Stirrings. And...
I'll do 12 posts at some point. No, so yeah. we got these two decks as the most powerful or the best performing in the format right now. Then in third place at 54%, we got Blue Black Scam. Then we got Lands at 52%, still respectable. Grixis Delva and Death and Taxes at 51%. Beanstalk, balanced as all things should be at exactly 50%, just as 8cast. And then we got Reanimator, which traditionally always doesn't do very well. It's got 45%, which is pretty bad. And I feel that's always like the kind of story for Reanimator. Also, like when you look at most challenges, there will be like one person in the top 8, but then when you look at the actual win rate, it's always around like 40, 47%,
It's
45%.
the like someone wins at 10-0 but with a 23% win rate. It's like, yeah, every time.
So yeah, these are is there any kind of takeaway you take away from the European results here?
I thought 8cast would be a little bit higher, honestly. 50 seems a bit low to me. I am exactly the same as you. I'm quite surprised Painted was this high. I would think those two would kind of switch, honestly.
Oh, you would have had 8cast higher?
I would think 8cast probably...
I think that the thing part about 8cast is that it's like pretty susceptible to like hate, to especially like the kind of like Nullrod, Karn hate, what have you. And while Painter also suffers from that, it's still better at playing against that. And I think like for a couple of months, the whole idea in the format has been, hey, artifacts are really good. Like you got to do something against the artifacts. These days, it's like so normal to have like Meltdown in your sideboard.
It's
of
true,
basically any deck that can play it.
There was a time, like, I guess 6-ish months ago, where people had Emeralds or Guy's Blessings in the sideboard a lot because Painter kind of... Everyone recognized that actually, it's quite good again. And then those have all declined. You know, you rarely see it at the moment. So this is where Painter can, get back to being pretty good again. And then it's cyclical. So I'm not surprised to see it do well. I'm just surprised to see it, at the top of the castle. I would not be surprised if, like, Initiative was the sole deck at the top, though. I think that deck is amazing.
Initiative is so good.
This is like terrifying to me. Like if you compare it to Japan, to like 56% win percentage, and like we talked about this previously, right? Like how Boros Initiative just doesn't care about Orcish Bowmaster and does not care about Veil of Summer. It does, like, it just sidesteps so many things, like the common problems in Legacy right now. It just completely ignores them.
I would say it actually does care about Bowmasters quite a lot because 2 mana and 2 bodies Flash is pretty good against Initiative. But I agree with you in general, though.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, like, they got that Caves of Chaos Adventure with Trample, and the Seasoned Dungeoneer is basically unblockable. So I agree. Like, against certain draws, it does something, and it especially helps with getting back the initiative at Flash. And,
like, to get into the weeds a little bit, I think 4-color Beanstalk with 4 Bowmasters is the best version of it because Bowmasters helps you with the initiative matchup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like it's kind of similar to like the banned control decks with Icefang Quartal, right? Like how Icefang Quartal could take back the initiative.
That card is banned. Sorry, we don't talk about that card here.
Oh shit!
But no, jokes aside, I totally get it. It is exactly the same theory. Like you can leave up removal or some other interaction, and then if they slam an initiative creature, you can play something to the board that they need to have a removal spell for as well, which is hard when you play a creature. Yeah.
It's kind of funny, right? When we think about Icefang Quartal, how like it's not a card anymore at all. Whereas it used to be like one of the main reasons people played these decks.
And that beautiful, beautiful Baleful Strix.
Oh man.
Baleful Strix has been outcast on so many levels these days, it's actually crazy.
No, it's just because it's so bad against Bowmasters.
Yeah, and also like Kotal is usually just better. Okay.
Underground Sea is better than Tropical Island, though. I think if Bowmasters wasn't in the format, Strix would be played a lot still, but yeah. Anyway.
So one thing I want to quickly mention, if we expand our scope a little bit, so if we not only take the decks that have played at least 200 matches, but we also look at the decks that have played at least 100 matches, we also see another deck at the top. And it depends like on how much you want to read into it. Of course, like the lower your sample size, the less significant the results are going to be. So we could go like really low, and there's one person who played like, I don't know, mono black red control, and they had like the 95% win rate and somehow didn't make top 8 or something. I mean, you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
But if we expand the scope a little bit and we look at decks with at least 100 matches, there's one deck that sits even on top of Painter and Boros Initiative, and that is Dragon Stompy, Moon Stompy, I don't know what we call it these days, you get the idea, at 58%, which is already like, 58% is crazy for Legacy terms.
That's huge, yeah.
Moon Stompy is good because it got that incredible new card, the Broadside Bombardiers.
Oh, that card is so good.
It's insanely good.
It's way better than I expected it to be. I've played against it a couple of times by now, and every time, like, in my head, I missed that it has haste.
And Menace.
Actually, should we quickly mention what it does? It's actually completely broken. It's called Broadside Bombardier. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, right. But it's 2 colorless and a red. It's a 3/3.
2/2.
Okay. Oh, see. Okay, there's some balance. It's a 2/2 with menace and haste.
Yeah.
And when is it riot when a creature
no,
or when it attacked?
Boast.
Oh, you want to take this?
So basically, yeah, sure. It's got Boast, which is I'm going off memory here, but is after it's attacked, you can use this Boast ability, which is sacrifice an artifact or creature. Broadside Bombardiers deals 2 damage plus the CMC of the sacrificed artifact or creature to any target. So you can. I mean, the most disgusting thing this deck does is second main phase, evoke a Fury, and then throw the Fury at their face for 7 damage.
Yeah. That's it's kind of funny because that's what a friend of mine also said, and at least in my games it never really worked out that way.
No, but I think the best thing is just to like throw an extra Chromox or like a chalice to kill a creature or something. Just deal 2 damage, or you could deal 2 with a Goblin token or 5 with a Rabble Master, or that's been blocked, and the one creature blocking it. But the main thing I think that comes up is because it has Menace, it's very hard to block because you can attack with it. If it gets double blocked, you can throw something at to kill one of the blockers as well. And
yeah, that's actually how it worked out for me most of the time, because you are heavily incentivized to kill it in combat, so it can't do the disgusting things you mentioned post combat or post damage at least. And so the way it worked out in most of my games was that they would play this. You would need to make some really awkward blocks in order to stay alive or like play around something that could happen. And they would, after declaring attackers, they would already sacrifice a creature to clear out your blocker so that you won't be able to block, or that makes your blocks even worse if you still commit to them. And that's the most common way, the most common play pattern. The other one is that it's in some kind of goblin deck, and they just like throw a ringleader at you for like 6 damage.
Or Mux's Fate, yeah.
Yeah, or Mux is like for completely broken stuff.
Yeah,
but it for me, the way it played out in a couple of games, actually, there are quite a few I've played against them. It's not the ceiling, which is like completely crazy, deal all the damage in the world to you. And it's also like not the low end, because there's no low end to this card. Even the low end is like already in the middle somewhere. And yeah, it would just like make combat math horrible for you, completely horrible. And it's actually kind of crazy that this card has haste. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah,
but this card is really, really good.
It is. I would not read this card and think it's good. You need to see it in action, and you need other people. I needed other people to tell me it's good. I probably wouldn't have really noticed it, but yeah.
I only fully noticed it on the train to Prague, because somebody in the same area where I was sitting, he was like, "Hey, have you heard about Broadside Bombardiers?" I'm like, "Yeah, kinda." And then he played and was like, "Whoa, this is just like holy shit, this is good."
Yeah. You're totally right. The median is like so hard to play against. It's just a nightmare card.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's also quickly touch on what did badly in Europe. Dude, there are some stinkers out there. Holy shit. So for this one, you had to apply a threshold of at least 75 matches, because turns out people play a lot of decks that just do well, except for Reanimator. So once you lower the threshold, you get to look into the dirty side, the deep down ugly side of Legacy. And yeah, there's just no way around it. The worst deck in Europe with at least a considerable amount of matches, it's Burn. It won less than a third of its matches. It has a 30% win rate. What can you say about Burn?
I think most of the wins are probably versus scam or like people trying to reanimate Troll of Khazad-dûms, maybe.
I looked into this. We were talking about it on some Facebook chat that we have, and they actually had a positive win rate against Shadow. I think it was Doomsday and Death in Texas. And I'm not sure about Doomsday, actually, now that I mention it. You know what?
Yeah, no, because we lose every time they have Fire Blast, because Doomsday can't beat Fire Blast.
Is that so? No, actually, I looked into it. Let me check. No, okay, here's the thing. It had a positive matchup against Death in Texas, Reanimator, and Shadow. So I guess that's the idea, right? You play Burn, or what I'm going to put in my sideboard. Oh, let's just put a bunch of like Graveyard Hate, because that's the easiest thing to put there. So, yeah. But other than that, it got crushed in pretty much every matchup, and that's how the 30% win rate came about. And we also talked about this, right? And for quite a long time, Burn has not been the go-to deck for like people trying to like budget into Legacy. It just like doesn't hold up anymore these days.
No, it's way too outclassed in power level. Arose in the format has been for a long time now. It's just bad. Sorry, Burn players. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you're on a budget, 8-cast, like, I mean, we're still talking about Legacy, but I guess that's one way. I still like the idea of like using like rainbow depth to get into the format, which also doesn't use any kind of reserved-list cards. And I mean, at that point, we're still talking about decks that don't allow proxy events that don't allow proxies, right? A lot of the like smaller, mid-sized events these days, especially in Europe, allow proxies.
There's also mono black shells. If you just shell up some ancient tombs, if you're like a pioneer player, or if you're a modern player with bowmasters, shield druids, griefs, get some opposition agents, like you can totally play a mono black deck.
Yeah, and I think if you want to play something that has a little more options to eventually expand to something else, I think Rhinos is actually a really good choice, especially if you're a modern player and you already have Rhinos. At that point, you're buying forces, and some duels, but you can make it work, right? I think Rhinos is a very good choice.
I think you could just play all shocks to start, and then get one Trop, one Volk, and it's probably totally fine. Because games don't last that long where you need multiple.
Exactly. Like you never block, you only attack.
Right? until you hit the mirror.
There's no such thing as
yeah. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but it's one of those decks that can rather make it work. Like for example, I don't know, if you played 5 color Beanstalk, you would get slaughtered if you played Shocklands. That's just yeah. Okay, so here's the second worst deck in Europe, and that is Sneak Show, which only won 40% of his matches. And I have to mention this. MTG decks, I think they make a difference they distinguish between Sneak Show and Omnitail. So I think this is specifically Sneak Show, not Omnitail.
Okay.
Just saying
may I say something about this?
Go ahead.
I think the reason behind Sneak and Show being so poorly like numbered is that I imagine like this is a paper Magic event, right? Like you don't have access to all the cards, and I can imagine that like given that we had more than 700 players for the event, I think a decent amount of those players were like there were players who maybe played Legacy like maybe twice, 3 times a year maybe, but they still had the Seek and Show deck from 2018, 17, and they just thought, well, my deck didn't get any new cards, I guess that's a good thing, except Atraxa maybe. I'm just gonna run it into this tournament, right? Because I know what I'm doing. Like I knew what I did like 5 years ago. So I can definitely...
You hate old cards and you 2-for-1 your opponent every time.
Yeah, that exactly, right? Like Sneak and Show is such an easy pickup for someone who is not completely up to date on Legacy, but still wants to grind some games and do reasonably well. And like these type of players might especially pick up something like Sneak and Show, and probably they lost a lot of games because they didn't like properly read the meta game, or maybe they activated Griselbrand with an Orcish Bowmaster in play or something like that, right?
By the way, I think we already talked about this in the last episode, but one of the best indicators on how Sneak Show is doing is you just go to mtggoldfish.com/player/JPA93 and you check out when his last top 8 was. And I think he has some kind of like crisis right now. He tweeted about that he hasn't top 8 anything since September, which is like a quarter of a year away, almost. Like, I mean, he hasn't played Sneak Show in many of those. He tried every once and then, and apparently it's just like not working out for him. So if you're a Sneak Show player and you have the ability to play something else at, I don't know, your upcoming event, maybe, maybe that's just like...
like now is the time to prove that you're better than JPA.
Okay. So other decks that didn't do well are Cephalid Breakfast at 45%. I think people already have talked about quite a bit about like how Bowmaster's a problem, and then the Cephalid Breakfast players are like, actually it's not, and then it turns out to still kind of be, I guess. I mean, yeah. And then Green White Depth 45%, and we once again arrive at Reanimator, which also only had 45%.
I'm surprised by Depths. I think the deck is pretty good. I think it's better than that. Maybe it's people trying out Legolas's quick reflexes and the card not being as good as they thought, potentially, but I think it's good in that as well. I know Tagoras was playing it at this event.
I think Tagoras said he was like so all about the card. If I remember correctly, I think he really, really liked it, like very much liked the card.
Yeah, I believe so. So I'm just surprised that it didn't do so well. I think it's better than this 45%.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, especially since the sample size is getting smaller and smaller as we look into this.
Yeah,
there's not too much. I say this after just trashing Sneak Show.
Yeah. That one kind of makes more sense in a field of griefs and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
By the way, can we quickly talk about Legolas quick reflexes, because I underestimated the card. The card is really good. Like it's really, really good.
I think it's a card with very real deck building restrictions, because the card at like face value is pretty busted. Like, it's just highly uninteractive, and it does some gross things. Its best home is Infect, surely. It seems insane there. Green White Depths makes a ton of sense as well. Like, you can make a Merit Age in peace, and like, only Edict effects can kind of get you, really. It's also crazy with Knight, because you can tap Knight and then untap it, blah blah blah. Go crazy with Maze of Ith, but
you know what I've actually, I haven't seen it, but Inigo Runkor told me about this, and that actually made him want to play like proper combo elves again. He told me about a board state where the opponent had a bunch of big creatures like Murktide and lots of different things, and the combo elves player had Nettle Sentinel and Legolas Crick Reflexes. And you can imagine how that went down, right?
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Especially like once you had like untap effects, then you not only do you get to tap it again for like the mana creation ability, now it untaps, and then you can untap it again with your Wild Simulator. It's like one Legolas Crick Reflexes gunned down an entire board of like a couple of Delvers, Murktide, Dragon Rage Chandler, everything
beautiful.
out there.
If I was the opponent, I would be completely shell shocked. Like, what just hit me? Holy. Smart Smith, eat your heart out.
I mean, Legolas Crick Reflexes. Legolas is just like, now how in the movies he's just like shooting down all the orcs.
Many arrows. Nice.
And then you shoot on the Murktide and Gimli's like, that one still only counts for one or something.
Yeah. It wasn't all the font though. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the European side of things. So now let's actually take a look at Japan. What happened in Japan, where we had a similar metagame except for like at the top end. And in Japan, holy shit. Like, guys, you remember our predictions, right?
Yeah.
I think, Callum, you actually went through them.
I went through them today to get them,
Yeah. So we all expected there to be 3 to 4 4-color control decks in the top 8. And we completely missed it in Europe, right? European top 8s, we're going to talk about that, but that had no 4-color top.
When the results came in, I was like, oh shit, we're dumb.
Yeah, we're very, very dumb. Actually, maybe quickly go about, as we already mentioned them, the European results. We got Julian Jakobowicz, Juju Bean 2004 in first place with Rock Delver. I think he also won Vintage last year, right? Or
he won the
Legacy twice?
Online one.
He did Vintage, yeah.
Vintage.
He won Vintage, and I think he also top 8'd Legacy last year. And now he top 8'd again, and this time he also takes it home. Like, this guy is completely on fire, completely busted, mind-blowingly on fire.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like, I think he won the Vintage Challenge just yesterday.
He did.
Like, what is going on? Like, he's like, how old is he? Like 19? He's on a gap year in Porto right now.
I think that's right.
Like, he's coming to Europe and just hanging out and winning all these tournaments. Like, this is completely busted.
It's how to make money. He's just written a sideboard guide and a whole primer on Rug Delver, and he's selling it for $15, I think. So go check out his Twitter if you're interested in the deck.
I actually bought that one because
you did?
Cool. If Rug Delver is available to play, dude, I wanna play it. And cool. It's somewhat short, but very dense.
Nice.
Like, it's not the typical primer where people go on about their lives and then they took the dog for a walk and then they got this idea. No, it's written very densely. So he goes about basically. I guess since he's selling it, I don't want to spoil it too much. But the whole idea of why he plays the deck is he thinks, or he rather realized, that Rug Delver is the deck that literally has no bad matchups except for the combo heavy version of Cephalid Breakfast. And that's why he wants to play the deck. And that line, I think he advertised this guide or something like that, on maybe even tweeted about it. That really got me going. That made me want to buy the thing, because I know, Kai, you feel the same, right? If there's anything Rug Delverish available in the format to play, like that's our champ. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, even without Nimble Mongoose, but still.
But Kai doesn't like the Questing Beast Druid.
Questing Druid.
I changed my mind. Good. It happens every now and then, but hey.
I'm just kidding.
It's a sign of an expanding mind or something, that you change your mind or something, I guess. True. Yeah. So yeah, he crushed that tournament. He's so smart. He's so good. And dude, he's just still only 19. I think he already made more money in his entire life than I did. Okay, maybe not. Okay, that's really too much. But those paintings and those top 8 promos, holy shit, they are like such an incentive to do this. And I've talked to some people who are basically flying around the world playing in all 3 events, and they actually mentioned that if you only top 8 one of those events, you get one of those special promos that you get for top 8, right? I think they in the past they sold for like 500,000 for 5,000 for $5,000. So you kind of basically cover your expenses almost. So that's certainly another incentive there.
Nice. Just got a top 8 Eternal Weekend.
Yeah,
it's easy.
Like we mentioned this, right? When we didn't get anything. Like we got this lousy shirt or something. That's how it works.
I got like 2 boxes of Modern Horizons or something.
I don't even remember what it was. I literally don't remember.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. Second place, we got Michele Gasparini, Rock Rhinos. Dude, that deck is so good. Remember when I called it the third best aggro deck in Legacy like half a year ago, and you guys were like, ah.
No, I agreed. I completely agreed.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna believe you on that. I thought like it was underappreciated.
No. I definitely underappreciated it, but it's also like so streamlined, and I just hate losing to it. Okay.
Fair.
I want to shout out the innovation in this deck. He has 4 Wastelands, which wasn't in the deck before.
That's actually terrifying. Like I like it's like now that we see it like this, like it makes a lot of sense because the cascade spells all are not fully colored, right? Like it's a Simic plus a colorless, or it's a Gruul plus a colorless for the cascade spells. And like if your opponent plays 2 Rhinos and then wastelands you right after, I think that's lights out.
Yeah, I felt like playing against it, I win on like the very last turn sometimes. And yeah, it'll close out a game. It's a really smart addition, which I'm surprised we hadn't seen it before. So absolutely.
Yeah, Coverage was actually talking about this. Martin Jusa, and I don't happen to remember his partner right now. They kept going on. Skura, okay. Yeah. They kept going on about the Wasteland and how awkward it is to see it in there. But the way I look at this is basically a tempo deck with like a giant oversized Tarmogoyf with Trample that is harder to remove. So that's I guess how to look at the deck, because it certainly feels like you're playing against a tempo deck when you go up against it.
Oh, dude, totally. Also, like, you know, there are just really powerful lands in Legacy, right? Like Ursa Saga, Maze of Ith, even Glacial Chasm, like all these problematic lands for Rhinos, you can just deal with them for 0 mana. It's just so good.
Cool. So another semi-finalist, we got Simon Ritter on, like, I guess Cradle Control is what they call it these days. I still call it Field Artisan. I never liked it when people called Death in Texas like Mono White Control. It's just like too I don't know, on the nose or something. But yeah, he got 4th place with it. Looking at the list right now, because there's a couple of flavors of it, right? Sometimes they play like a bunch of Elf Spirit Guides. Okay, he's playing 1 Elf Spirit Guide. Grist. No, but yeah, this looks pretty straightforward. It's so funny to me because, you know, Coverage, they don't play a lot of Legacy, I guess, but they kept going on about how are there these fair decks in Legacy? What is going on? Like this is the most unusual Legacy game. Like when Rhinos played against Cradle Control, they were like, oh, where's the broken stuff? It's like, dude, I mean, we're putting 8 power into play on the first turn sometimes, so like we naturally order people out. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast and you're this far into the podcast, you already know that Legacy is like not the way people sometimes, at least in the past, talked about it, where it's just like crazy combo decks flying around. It was just funny to still see that attitude on the Coverage. So, we already talked about Mark Tobias, completely crazy Doomsday Control deck, basically. Also went out in the semifinals. And then for the rest of the top 8, we got Legacy All-Star Matteo Blasi in the Nimblest Mongoose, time playing Grixis Stalver. And there's actually some story around this, because he was actually not supposed to be top 8. He lost his win-in against
Elliot Dragon.
Elliot Bussard, Elliot Dragon, yeah. Elliot had actually won. And it was so, like, I watched it later on the stream once again, and like everybody was so confused, and they were trying to like tag Anorak. Oh my god, they reported the match result wrong. No. It says like Matteo won on melee, but clearly we saw Elliot win. So the way it worked is, and I mean, that is dedication. Elliot literally did not want to top 8 the Legacy main event because he wanted to play Vintage on Sunday. And they made it so that because Legacy went for 10 rounds, you would play the top 8 on Sunday. So Elliot completely won the game, and at some point he just like shook his head, extended the hand, and conceded.
I love it.
That's crazy. Oh my goodness.
It's such a cool thing to do, especially it seems like he's already made up his mind before the beginning of the match, I think.
I would think so, yeah.
And I would love that opportunity to like make someone's day as well, like that. Like, you know, just don't tell them they have no idea, and then to give them such a really cool gift like that. I would be so happy doing that if you've already made up your mind and stuff. So, I mean, he obviously made Matteo's day. Yeah.
Very, very much so. And you know what's the best part about this whole story? I mean, you already know because you can see the show notes. Elliot that went on to top 8, the vintage main event.
Yeah. He topped.
This is perfect. This is the perfect story, right?
Top forward beating Justin in the quarters.
Oh, you bet Justin? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Justin.
I mean, that is baller as fuck.
Very boring,
Yeah.
right? This is like, no, I want my chance at this other tournament that I care even more about, even though I have like the craziest chance at this one right now. No, I don't want it. I want the vintage one.
I do have to say, I think top 18 Legacy meaning you can't play vintage is really bad organizing. He shouldn't have to do this, and I think it's
That's true.
I hope they kind of work something out for next time. So it's quite disappointing to see some people, you know, like for me, if I was going over to play both, I'm not a massive vintage person, but a huge majority of the Eternal scenes in every continent are. If they're like thinking, oh, do I really want to top 8 Legacy if I then can't play vintage? That just feels bad, right? And I'm not even, and I didn't even go, and it feels bad to me. Yeah.
As we speak about vintage, by the way, shoutouts to Lukas Schwendinger, who actually won the vintage Eternal weekend.
Yeah.
So let's not let that go unmentioned.
For sure.
But yeah, now it's actually time for Japan. Kai, take us away. What do you see in as the best performing decks in Japan there?
Can I just interrupt 1 second? We didn't shout out 6th, 7th, and 8th place.
Oh my god! I was so into the story of Matteo, dude.
No.
Let's go. Yeah, very very big shout out to Martin Pelikan playing. What was like? I take credit for saying some Reanimator always gets in the top 8.
No, this doesn't count as Reanimator.
It kind of counts as Reanimator, right? It's literally, it's not Reanimator, it's not Scam, it's both.
So to give you a little bit of context why I'm shouting about this is because in our predictions, Julian said one Reanimator, and I was like, absolutely no way. There's not even going to be a Reanimator in the top 16. Okay. I think it's bad.
Before you go into that, let me read some of the cards from the stack list. 4 Dark Ritual, 4 Entomb, 4 Reanimate, 4... okay, you go.
I quit the podcast. I'm
going to animate that. And then, okay, I see where you're coming from. 2 Currency Converter, 2 Liliana of the Veil, 4 Orcish Bowmaster, 4 Doughty Voidwalker. This is why we call it like Reanimator Scam, right? It's not proper Reanimator, it's not proper Scam. It's basically like...
They're just having a baby. That's okay.
Just this deck.
A big
Kai,
graveyard
you have to choose
baby.
Who's right.
Yeah.
There's Hogak in there as well. Holy shit.
That's cool. Entomb Hogak, baby. Woo. Bowmaster being the two creatures to evoke it. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, the combo.
All right, Kai, who's right, me or Julian?
I would say this is a Reanimator deck. I think,
yeah,
dude. Like, I mean, the moment when you add something like Entomb, it is
fine.
a Reanimator deck.
Good call, Julian. Yeah. Good call.
Now that you mentioned, I think that's actually what puts it over the edge, right? Otherwise, people would like splash red and play like Faithless Looting and stuff. But Entomb is like some pretty strong commitment.
So there's one thing I really like about this deck is that it is so hard to sideboard against.
Yes.
It is just so hard. Like I can like this he probably like won 2 or 3 rounds by just, opponents having like desperate mulligans to like Leyland of the Voids, and then they're getting crushed by Bowmasters. And
how many games has Julian lost against Reanimator to Doughty Voidwalker?
Doughty, dude,
that's so funny. Like I think I lost my last 3 Legacy Challenge top 8 quarterfinals to literally stupid fucking Doughty Voidwalker, and like we already talked about this so much. Like no, you don't want the Furies, but you want the Swords to Plowshares and stuff, and like in every time it still keeps happening. I also lost against Dooms. Oh yeah, when I played against Sebastian Zillinger, who got 9th place, we talked about him quite a lot. I kind of had the 3rd game won, but my stupid brain, like I was not on top of my game, did not bring in Lantern for the 3rd game, even though I had seen Doomsday with Emrakul in the 2nd game.
Oh no.
So I had to play out the game properly, and you know how I lost? I lost to stupid Doomsday making like a turn 1 Voidwalker, and it went all the way.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's your brand.
I even kept some, I think, Swords to Plowshares, because I've seen the entire deck in the 2nd game, and I still couldn't get there. Yeah, that's my brand. Like, that point, I don't know what to do.
What's your brand, Julian? Like, nope, not Nintendo, not other stuff,
No,
not elves, not painter. It's just dying to Doubthy Void Walker.
Yeah, it's like the guy who dies to Doubthy Void Walker. That's his entire brand.
You know, at some point, people are gonna come up to me at events and hey, Julian, you want to sign that Doubthy Void Walker?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, could you sign my Doubthy Void Walkers?
All right, if you're listening, please get Julian to sign your Doubthy Void Walkers.
Oh my goodness.
I will do it with pleasure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. So yeah, we got Martin there. Then we got Peter Lobotka, Boris Initiative, as I think we all predicted for one of those to be in the top 8. And then we got Gianluca Gassola on yet another Ruck Delver. I think we did not expect like 3 Ruck decks to be in the top deck in the top 8 of Eternal Weekend Europe here.
So I'm just trying to find out. I'm pretty sure Gianluca is like the most diehard Rug Delver player.
Yeah, I'm Gianluca Gassola, also top 8 at Grand Prix Prague with Rug Delver too, and I even remember the deck list quite a bit because it had a crazy selection of creatures. It was
still Ghosts and Stifle.
Yeah. But also Hooting Mandrills was in there, I think.
I remember that.
And a couple of other things, like maybe like a True Name. Oh, man.
Yeah, that sounds right. That
right?
I saw all those for sure.
Yeah, I think like Delver of Secrets was the only 4 off, I think, and all the other creatures were like fringe 2-3 offs.
But I've never heard or seen him play not Rug Delver, so it's awesome. He's obviously just bananas good, so that's awesome to see him.
But this time he's not playing Delver. Of course, he's playing Dragon Wedge Chandler, but he's playing a lot more of a mid-range list. So he's playing like Murktides, Questing Druids, and 2 copies of Ethereal Forager, Spellbelly, as we like to call him.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Yeah. So congrats to him. Always rugging.
Always be rugging.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that out of the way, Glory where Glory is too. Once again, Kai, what do we see in Japan? What is doing well in Japan?
So, like the most played decks by win rate and with at least 200 matches in Japan, we have a clear winner. It's 4 or 5 color Beanstalk with 60%. 60 is such a high number. Oh my goodness,
so much. Yeah.
I mean,
you rarely get to see that in large numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see from the top 8, right? Like the top 8 had a couple of like Beanstalk decks already, but boy, was that deck good. And second is Boros Initiative. So this is exactly the same as in Europe.
57%.
57% Boros represent. Followed by Ruck Delver. I think one of the biggest differences between Japan and Europe is the heavy presence of Ruck Delver in Japan. Whereas in Europe you saw more like Grixis Delver or Scam.
Yeah. Also interesting fact, we didn't mention this for Europe because Ruck Delver didn't see enough play to make it into any of those like at least 200 or at least 100 matches. But if you look below decks with at least 100 matches, Ruck Delver actually had the most insane win percentage and at 62% in Europe. And at some point it gets carried by Julian's results there, of course, because the lower the number of pilots gets, the more this one outlier like heavily influences it. So don't read too much into it. But overall, still a very good showing for Ruck in Europe. And as it turns out, also like okay in Japan, right? 52% is solid. This is a deck that you want to play, but nothing that makes you go crazy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then, we have some follow-up with 51% on Painter, Sneak and Show, and Blue-Black Scam. And if you go like at these 100 matches with the best win rates, we have Doomsday, 64%, but this is clearly because of my hero Mark Tobias. He's probably responsible for like at least 10% of those.
Didn't we talk about like I very much remember in the last episode we talked about how you were like you do not want to play Doomsday right now.
Yeah, I think I was wrong, as always.
No, man, okay.
I think the deck
that's cool. Being wrong is cool. That means progress.
Yeah, thank you. The deck is, I think, once you make it out of the once you make it to like a 4-0, 5-0, 5-0 standing, you can probably start to face a lot more of these Beanstalk decks, which are pretty good matchups for you. And you just gotta dodge Blue-Black Scam, basically, and Grixis Delver also. But
and you mentioned that Boros Initiative isn't actually that bad for you, because I initially thought Boros Initiative is bad for Doomsday, but I think you mentioned it's not that bad.
Oh, yeah, it's all right. They don't interact well with the card Doomsday or with Thassa's Oracle. They don't have any tools for that. They can try to lock you out, but the thing is, like, if you really want to beat Boros Initiative, you can, because you got tools like Subtlety and Force Negations, Forcible Days, like even Snuff Out, like those cards really interact really well with Initiative for just 0 mana. So you got the tools. It's not a fantastic matchup, by the way, but it's like slightly above 50%, I want to say.
I'm actually looking at the win rate right now. Okay, there's really not too much in the database. There's like 6 matches, and yeah, it's not even worth mentioning. It's 6 matches. Yeah.
I think I quickly want to hop to like the most underwhelming decks, which is so funny in Japan, because the most underwhelming deck was also the deck that got played the most at the event, which is Show and Tell.
Oh dear,
this is such a what the heck?
Okay. Well, one qualifier. I actually looked into this because it wasn't clear to me. I think they specifically mean Omni Show because they have different categories for Show and Tell and Sneak Show. So. But the point still stands, right? Show and Tell didn't do very well in the event.
This is kind of funny.
Sneak Show had 51%, so basically break even for the most played deck. That's okay, but especially Omnitel, 38%, like doing horribly, like completely capsizing, and like there's no coming back from that. This is almost burn levels of like misperformance. Oh, and while you had the decks that don't perform very well, my idea, like, hey, maybe this is the metagame for 12 post. Yeah, in Japan it had like 39%. Like, it's also not exactly great. But of the more played decks that didn't do well, once again we see Reanimator at 47%. Like, Reanimator just can't catch a break. 8-cast also 47%, not too great. And lands at 42%. Like, this was not the tournament for lands.
I'm really surprised by both lands and 8-cast. I figured like both decks are pretty powerful, and especially like lands has, like, if you look at the top decks, lands has really a decent matchup against most of them. That you see a lot of like
but it doesn't against Sneak and Show. Sneak and Show beats lands really badly.
It does, but
so
Sneak and Show.
No, but Sneak and Show didn't do very well. But I think because there was so much Sneak and Show in the field, that's why lands did worse here than Europe.
Here's the interesting thing. I would agree. But overall, because like the meta is still so diverse at all, like I think these individual matchups don't mean too much. And when I'm looking at, for example, for lands for the performance in Asia, it actually went 50% against Sneak and Show in just 8 matches. It did really well against Drug Delver. I think you would expect that. It got slaughtered by Boris Initiative. It got destroyed by Blue-Black Scam, but that's only 2 matches. Let's not lean into that. It has just like a ton of 0% matches where the sample size is pretty small. I mean, there's Doomsday, which you expected 4 matches, which it all lost.
I mean,
it lost all matches against Besiege Storm.
Yeah, 0-6 against Initiative, like, makes sense as well, and it's pretty bad.
It was 1-5 against Initiative, but still, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I put it together on the Discord because people specifically asked about lands, and as I'm loading up the Discord right now, lands went 1-20 against some of the most played decks in the format, which really like doesn't bode well to it for it. So
that's wild, because it's just not what I thought.
Yeah, so okay, here it is. Lands went 1-20 in Eternal Weekend Asia between Boris Initiative, Blue-Black Scam, Doomsday, 8-cast, and Besiege Storm. It went 1-20.
God, that's tough.
It did well. It did well against other stuff, like you mentioned, Drug Delver and stuff. So it didn't completely like drown, but it didn't have the greatest of showings.
This is like Julian versus Voidwalker levels.
But yeah, as you mentioned, it did well against like tempo decks, like against Timor Delver, against Grixis Tempo. It also did well against Reanimator. It did very well against Death and Taxes. It won both of its matches against ANT. Okay.
And how's lands against Scam?
Against Blue-Black Scam?
Yeah. Probably good as
well. Where is it? I mean, we are talking about rather small numbers, so don't read too much into it, but I'm trying to find it on the matrix.
It lost twice. Okay, well, I thought that was quite a good matchup for it, but...
I mean, it's really only 2 matches. Don't read too much.
Sure,
like, you literally get to a 50% if it's just like one of the matches flips.
Because I still think, despite this bad record, I think lands is good against like a lot of the top of the meta, but I forgot about Initiative when I was saying it the last cast, I think, when we were talking about it, and Initiative is very good against lands.
Yeah, definitely. So, other than that, what are the other decks that still did something? I mean, at that point, we got Blue-Black Scam, Grixis, Delver, and DNT all around 50%. We got Reanimated 47%. We already talked about that. And then, as Kai already mentioned, once we expand the scope a little bit, we go to the decks with less than 100 matches locked. Like, Doomsday is pretty close at 97%.
64% with 97 matches that's very good. Like we can pretend that's 100 matches. Like that's pretty close to it, right? Yeah, it's a few off, but you know.
let me actually see. Like Doomsday did really well against. Okay, this is at least 11 matches. It did well against Boris Initiative at 64%. It won all of his matches against Reanimator and most of his matches against Domain Beanstalk. It's just like it has so many matches where it did really well. 12 Post, it did well against Painter, DMA Evoke. All of those are like small sample sizes. It's small sample sizes and individual matchups across the board. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to find a matchup where it didn't do well despite playing a lot of them. And there's really not much. I guess there's Mono Red Prison, but that's only 3 matches. It's just like Doomsday just had great matches, very, very great matches across the board with very little weakness.
Impressive.
And I think that's the takeaway here.
Kai, get back on it.
Oh,
he already is.
Yeah. Mark, teach me.
I mean, the first thing he did was like to remove white from the deck, right?
Yeah, that was terrible. Oh, dude, that was a terrible mistake. So one thing, this is for all the listeners who try to feel smart and change things immediately. I did it and I failed immediately, right? Like I took Mark Tobias deck list and I thought, well, like these white cards really don't belong in this deck. So I cut white entirely and I joined the Showcase Challenge and I go 0-2 drop. So and then today I played exactly Mark's deck and I almost trophied. So I'm like, dude, people, sometimes you just gotta shut the F up and do
what you're told.
And do what you're told and do what the masters do. You know, there's a reason why they're doing it.
Yeah, is Mark Tobias the Doomsday master right now?
I mean, like after this weekend, clearly,
very much so, right?
But
dude, I just love these storylines. Now I'm so excited to see what he's going to do at Eternal Week in North America. Because if you were a betting man, he might actually be the number 1 seed, the number 1 pick, the guy who's going to give you the worst odds if you bet on him to win the tournament, or the best odds depending on how you want to look at it, right?
Yeah, I would bet money.
Is there anyone you'd pick over Mark? I mean, okay, he's super check-lagged. It's just like 3rd big tournament in a row, assuming he's gonna go, right? But his Twitter very much seemed like he was gonna go. So maybe that's counting against him. And of course, there's also a lot of like Legacy Masters in North America who are like just like jump in the car, get there, play. But if he's fresh enough, and I mean, there's a couple of weeks still to go, like at least one and a half.
But he got so many reps in, like, and he played so many events like the last couple of days that I think he might want to do it. Also, the deck list is 1 card off, and the list in Europe had 2 Sheoldreds in the sideboard. The list in Japan, he had only 1 Sheoldred and 1 more Swords to Plowshares, which I completely agree with because there are already enough 3 and 4 drops in this deck by the One Ring and the Fairytime Raveler. But yeah, more Swords to Plowshares definitely help.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, dude, I'm so excited. I'm also super excited. By the way, something we haven't mentioned at all up until this point. I can't like put into words how much commitment Anorak Das puts into bringing us coverage, right?
We love you, dude.
We talked about this all weekend on Twitter and everywhere, and I'm literally out of words because Anorak has so much passion. And if you want to learn more about this, check out his interview of Humans of Magic, where he talks about a lot of this and goes into really big detail. It's so funny to me because when I traveled to Prague, some people in my train were talking about how Anorak quit his job and he fully committed to bringing us this coverage. And I was like, actually, I don't think he quit his job. I think he still has like a full-time day job. And they were like, no way, there's no way. Like he's bringing us so much coverage. He must have committed to this full-time. I don't think so. And no, he still has his full-time day job.
Exactly. Yeah, he does both.
It's so crazy.
I think he never sleeps. Yeah, that's the recipe.
You know when he slept? I was sitting up with him like at the coverage and like watching him and talking about stuff quite a bit. And at some point he was like, dude, Julian, I need to find a moment to sleep. Like he literally, he like as the match was going and I was up with him, he was like, I'm just gonna take a nap now. Just like, okay. And he literally had to take some naps during the coverage because he was just like so overworked and so exhausted. And that's like everything he puts into this. This is like it's not like they are like showering him with money or anything. Like it's basically like they are making it work for him, but it's not like he does this just for some, I guess, monetary incentive or something. This is pure passion and love for the game, and I can't emphasize enough how much of a, like, people call people national treasures. Anorak is an international treasure.
He's absolute hero. The quality of it is just out of this world as well. Like, I just loved watching it. I mean, people try, so no, I'm trying, but the coverage is often pretty bad historically of these kind of events. But his production is so slick and amazing. It's just
Also, this entire setup, it's so thought out. Like I've seen a couple of setups between, like, let's say GPs, Four Seasons, Impact Returns. Up until now, Impact Returns was the best I've ever seen, and I think it still is. But you can't really compare it because Impact Returns has, like, I don't know, like, depending on how you want to count, like, a dozen people working on it. This one is literally just Anurag and his 2 commentators. And it just completely blows me away how the kind of quality he puts out there and the stuff that he's, like, shipping all across the world to make this work. Yeah. So, Anurag, we love you. Please stay with us for as long as like, humanly possible, and just keep giving us all the great coverage that you can.
And everyone that watches him, go and give him that sub on Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Patreon, what have you. Literally just put money in his briefcase or something.
Yes. Because it costs a hell of a lot of money to, like, get all this equipment and bring it over here. And
yeah, dude, I talked to, I guess I shouldn't mention how much, but I took a guess how much all of his equipment costs, and he looked at me and he was like, double. And I already was like, oh, I'm probably, like, estimating it too much. No, it's even more. And then I was like, wait, why is it double? And then he points underneath the table, and there's, like, 2 more computers and everything and set up. And I'm like, oh my God, holy shit. Cool. So yeah, Anurag, you rock. You bring us this coverage. This is amazing. And for the Japanese coverage, it's gonna be on YouTube. We're gonna put a link in the show notes so you can also watch all of that. And with that, Kai, I think this is your job, because I'm horrible at reading these names. Do you want to give us a rundown of who and what decks top 8'd in Japan?
I like this top 8 so much because I'm going to mention it in a few seconds here, but, like, half of the players I know from both Japan, but also Berlin.
Dude, I was wondering, there was one guy in there that was like, isn't this the guy from Berlin?
Heck yeah, dude. So I'm just gonna go from the top here. So the first is Leo Isogaya on 5-color Beanstalk, and second place is Takahiro Ikeda. So this guy, he also was the finalist in the last God of Legacy like a month ago.
Nice.
And he's in a crazy win streak with Boros Initiative, and I basically grew up with him playing Legacy like many years ago in Japan, right?
This is so crazy to me. Sorry to interrupt you there, but you know how much people always, like, especially like mid-tier players or plateauing players, are like, oh, this is so stupid. Legacy is all about, like, luck and the die roll and what have you. Oh no, this is everybody's lucky and I'm the best player, but I just can't prove it. Like, we talk about, like, these guys, Mark Tobias or Takahiro that you just mentioned, and like HJ Kaiser, what have you. These big tournaments, they always see the return of some of the juggernauts. And
100%.
To me, that's a big testament to the format.
Like, Takahiro Ikeda at this point is basically the Japanese XJ Cloud, you can basically say. He's a monster. Yeah, so good. On third place, we have Alex Kwok on 5-color Beanstalk Ring Yorion. That's the only Yorion deck in, I think, all of the both top 8 in both Europe and Japan. Really exciting. And then on 4th place, this is really surprising for me because I didn't even know that he was going to Japan. Hanlin is a local Legacy player from Berlin, and he attends the Thursday night Legacy events. We usually get like about 20 people, sometimes even more or less. But Hanlin has been killing it in our local events too, and we didn't know, but you know, he just went to Japan and fucking top 8 at this event.
Hell yeah.
This is crazy, really. Like, our WhatsApp group went off.
I love that.
And yeah, it's really good to see him. Like, well deserved. But damn, I lost to him a lot.
Is he Japanese or is he Chinese?
I think he's either from China or Taiwan. I haven't asked him that.
Okay, because his last name is like Shure, so I was like, yeah.
Right. But he's also fluent in German, and yeah, just overall, like, a really nice inclusion to our Berlin Legacy community. So super.
I think I might have actually played against him when I was in Berlin last time. That's why I remembered the name. I was like, dude, is this literally Kai's friend from Berlin? Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, if you keep winning in our local events, you face him at some point, right?
Yeah, I'm still in your Legacy group, and I still see when you post your top 8s and stuff, and I always see him there. I think he also did very well recently, right?
Oh, dude, like all the time, yeah.
See, another person who crushes the format consistently. Loving this.
And then we have Oops All Spells, played by Yuki Kubo. Kind of cool. Did not expect a deck like Oops All Spells to go.
That's the wild card, right?
It's really crazy.
Imagine you sit down in the top 8, and I guess it's open deck list at that point, and then they hand you the deck list, and if you hadn't already seen it, you're like, what the fuck?
This Oops list is also wild.
Is it that crazy? Like,
Yes.
I thought I had looked at it, and
It has 6 main deck ley lines.
whoa, is it the white ley
It
line?
has 4 main deck white ones and 2 main deck blue ones that give everything flash. So it can win your opponent's turn 1 upkeep.
Wait, I totally missed that. Oh my god, ley line of anticipation.
Yes.
Dude,
That's
yes.
some vintage tech.
I mean, this guy's now playing Magic the Gathering. He's playing like some bingo game.
So you know how like in Europe, 1 round Rhinos was on coverage, and they went in your turn 1 upkeep, XL3 Spirit Guides make Rhinos, and everything went crazy. Like that was a real thing that happened on camera. But this guy can just kill you turn 1 in your upkeep. So you're like, oh great, I won the die roll against Oops, I'm gonna win this. Nope.
That's so good. Like dodges force of negation entirely. Yeah. Crazy.
I think it also had like 2 Dread Returns in it, so you can like just Dread Return twice, I guess.
Yeah, for the double win.
Yeah.
What do you Dread Return the second time? You got 1 Thassa's Oracle? Oh, I guess okay. So the idea is if you have 1 in your hand, you don't have to Cable Therapy yourself?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I say it makes sense as somebody who's never looked that deep into it, but I mean, on a surface level, it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know Oops well enough to like know what's cut and stuff, but there's like.
But the card that always gets me is Memories Journey, because I used to laugh about it because I thought like, oh, this is like Magical Christmas Land. No, like
Memories
Journey gets you quite a lot.
Memories Journey, like for me playing against the deck, or like just knowing what Memories Journey does now, it made the deck go up like 3 times, 4 times as good. Honestly, like what that.
Do you want to like quickly go into what it does now that we mentioned?
Well, Memories Journey is not in this deck list, so
yeah, but since we are like basically hyping it right now,
yeah, I will just foreshadow this with like saying, there's a player called Faulted Form who wrote a Memories Journeys guide. So honestly, go and find Faulted Form on Twitter and read his guide.
I love how there's like a guide about a single card inclusion in an all-in combo deck.
I've seen him and my friend Jamie, who started playing Oops, do some wins that are just wild. Like you beat so many things with it if you know all the kind of ins and outs of it. But the main use is, you mill your whole deck, and then you have like an Elvish Spirit Guide in hand, or an untapped Turn Timber Symbiosis, so an untapped green mana. And then you can if Surgical targets any of your things, you can shuffle it back in. If they target the Oracle or the Dread Return, you shuffle that back in. And very often you can shuffle the Oracle and 2 Lotus Petals back in, so you can then play it in a couple of turns and stuff. But it does some really wild things as well. But in that list,
this is the normal use case that I'm used to, and you're telling me there's more?
There's many more. Oh my god, it opens up so many things.
Okay, so can you send the link to me on our chat?
We'll link
actually
it
on Discord or somewhere, and we're gonna share it in the show notes.
Yeah,
because I had no idea there was an entire guide to it. I know somebody Stephen Nennion wrote a book on Gush, but I didn't know there was a guide.
No,
on
it involves
Journey.
lines where you do get surgicaled and you can't win with Oracle. The Oracle's gone, so you shuffle in enough things to sacrifice to Cabal therapies to make zombies of Dread Return, off Bridge from Below, and win with actual damage over 3 turns. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's happening.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I guess I can see it if you do it
happen.
on the first turn where the opponent has nothing and they used half their cards to stop
No,
you.
no, I've seen it happen where you have 3 turns to win with zombies and you make enough over the first couple of turns and then win.
Can you imagine? You literally you extract the Thassa's Oracle, you're like, okay, there's no way they're killing me, and then they kill you fucking zombies.
Yep.
Is this what the second bridge is for? Oh no, there's only 1 bridge. Okay,
so
we got
this
the second
is a very different list, because you have all these ley lines and stuff. Because I know that list plays the Memories Journey, and a 1 of Reanimate is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, this one is 2 reanimates. I was thinking the reanimates are something you bring in against combo, when they counter your Balustrade Spy.
No,
or
this
your
has 2
Inferno.
Dread Return. The other one has an actual reanimate in there as well.
Oh no, this one has 2 reanimates in the sideboard. So this is what I'm thinking. That maybe you bring it in against, let's say, control or basically anything that tries to counter your creatures, and then you got this one-off card to try again, basically.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it trades for graveyard removal.
But otherwise, the deck is kind of a lot deeper than you expect. So
I can tell from
yeah,
you really seem to have found something in the depth of the stack that I wasn't even aware of.
Yeah, no, I didn't until it's all credit to Faulted Form. Honestly, he's will be at Eternal Weekend in America, so I'm rooting for him.
Okay, cool. So what else is there, Kai?
So yeah, that was the Upso spell deck. Oh yeah, we have Rencibo on Boros Initiative. This is the second Boros Initiative deck in this top 8. And then we have Minamijima on Doomsday, and this is more like a stock list. And just to tell all the Doomsday players out there, like, you can still play your personal tutor Doomsday builds. Like, there's no problem about this deck. Like, you don't have to go Mark Tobias, deck's still good. And then on 8th place we have Manuel Trabuco, and I know Manuel also since 2011. Also, I played when I played at the very first small little tiny Hareruya before they became big, and Manuel was already there playing Shardless Agents, Shardless Buck, I think, with Liliana of the Veils, and I played Canadian Threshold. We had a good time, and now he's crushing it with Grixis Tempo plus Questing Druid, so like a 4-color tempo deck list. Really good to see.
This is very much another one of those things where you take a traditional tempo deck, you remove the drivers, and you just go mid-range. And you know, when we did that with Borg, Castlevania, whatever people called it, these decks that eventually also kind of became Checkpile. And yeah, he's doing that. This is Grixis splashing green for Questing Druid. And is there anything else in the sideboard? One of Carpet of Flowers, I guess. Yeah, this is the full... Is that a basic land? Of course, there's not. Sometimes we also want to play basic lands in these decks.
I mean, yeah, it's the mana base is kind of a little scary, but...
It's ass. The mana base is ass.
But other than that, super happy to see a deck like this, because it was not even on our radar, a full-color deck, because we have been talking about Grixis or Rock. But
basically all these Beanstalk versions, right? But there's no 4-color. I'm not even sure, you can be divided on whether this is a tempo deck or not. It still plays Days Wasteland, but none of the super traditional stuff like Delver. But yeah, I think it's still a tempo deck very much so.
Yeah, really stacked.
This is this is all your friends. Half of these guys are friends of yours, right?
Yeah, they are. That's really awesome. Really, next month I'm gonna fly over to Japan for 2 weeks or so. I'm gonna meet all these guys, right?
Nice.
Probably in Haruruya. So yeah. I
was just gonna ask you whether that makes you feel dude, I missed out, I wanna go.
Man, if they do it next year exactly like this year, I might want to book my flight so that I can join the event too, because I just love Legacy, dude. Look at this. This is awesome, right? 600, almost close to 700 players at those events.
But I could tell, right? As much as you enjoyed your booth, I think you already mentioned, right? Dude, in the future, I kind of want to figure out maybe I can play in the main event and still do my booth.
You gotta tell me.
You already mentioned that at 4 Seasons last time that you were kind of missing playing.
Oh, you gotta tell me how to clone people.
Maybe your girlfriend can do your booth.
Oh, yeah, my girlfriend can play the main event then.
Oh, she's even better, right? I forgot. I mean, she might actually be by now.
Yeah.
She plays Blue Red Diver or something, right? That's her choice.
Yeah, I showed her the Magic Arena interface, and she immediately is it colors, and I'm like, oh man,
qualified for half the Pro Tours and stuff.
Big mistake, yeah.
Cool. So guys,
there's a couple of things I just picked up on in the top 8 that I want to shout out. Is so 3 5-color controls, but they are all 5-color. They all 3 have 4 Bowmasters in. They all have 1 or 2 4th Aerlingus. Very few Pyroblasts in the sideboard. The red splash is just for 1 or 2 4ths in the main deck and a Meltdown or 2 in the sideboard. That's just the red splash. But
I think that there's, especially about the Pyroblast, to mention that, I think one of the biggest changes that Legacy has seen over the last, let's say 1 year, maybe 1.5 years, is that we went away from these big 3, 4, 5 mana blue spells, these chases and stuff, and into blue being more of even more of a utility color than it already is. I think these days the best thing you can Pyroblast is a Force of Will,
Yeah.
And
Uro sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, or for
good.
like a tempo play or something, that definitely. But I keep going back to how much of a problem fourth Erlangers is for a lot of decks in the format, and I think that's why Hydroblast, and like just looking at the first 4 or 5 color deck here, there's a 2 of Hydroblast in the sideboard. This deck is playing almost as many blue blasts as red blasts. It still has like 3 red blasts in the end, but part of it is also that you probably end up fighting over the fourth Erlangers, as we've seen it for seasons, right?
Yeah.
So many of these mirror matches came down to fighting over that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the decline of Pyroblast.
Yeah, without looking, I would assume that most sideboards, if they can play both blasts, would be an equal mix. If not more Hydras, because of like initiative as well, and Painter and Moonstompy. Hydroblast is better than Pyroblast, I think.
Yeah, for example, the second deck here played by Leo Izogoya, he's playing 2 copies of Hydroblast in the sideboard and no red blasts at all, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And he's also playing 2 copies of Veil of Summer. And Hanlin is playing, he's playing 1 Hydroblast, 2 Veil of Summer, and another Blue Blast. So he's playing 2 Blue Blasts and no red blasts at all. Dude, this is literally like Pyroblast
Never would have
is on the way
expected
out.
it. Yeah, it's so weird. It's the same in Vintage as well.
Oh, is Vintage all about the red space as well?
Yeah,
no?
there's just, well, not really. It's just like, I mean, blue is still amazing, but there's just enough non-blue decks. So Pyroblast is just like on a bit of a decline as well.
Huh.
It's weird. But yeah, the other thing is the top place initiative deck is got some like 2 Bone Crusher Giants, and there was something else different as well. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like 2 Archons is interesting as well. And then the other initiative deck had 4 Brutal Cathars that we talked about before as well.
Oh, dude, I think we talked about that on the last episode, right?
Exactly,
this more human style approach to it.
So both the initiative decks have like slight differences and variations to the norm as well, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Also, I think one of them, Takahiro Ikeda, is not playing Fable of the Mirror Breaker, if I'm seeing this correctly. No, he's playing Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but the other guy was not playing Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Let me try to find that as Initiative Stompy. Yeah, he's not playing Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and that's where the slots for the Brutal Cathar come from, I would think. Also, like one of Timeless Dragon, Airwind, Fearless Knight, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's quite a mix, and the sideboard's quite different as well.
I want to people always talk about Initiative Stomping, and it feels like 50 cards have been locked down, and then there's like, or maybe something like 52, and then there's like 8 slots there people try stuff, and a lot of times you see these like Lord of the Rings legends come up. Sometimes they play, like as you mentioned, Brutal Cathar, and I think the common denominator is 4th Erlangers. Holy shit, that card is good. By the way, here's a small story from my tournament, and I'm gonna spoiler that by saying this is not how I think about cards, because that was an extreme case. It was just funny because we were playing the Painter Mirror match, the infamous Painter Mirror match that I lost last minute to Bolt. And before the second game, we were like talking about 4th Erlangers, whether it's good, whether it's not, and I very emotionally heavily made the case for 4th Erlangers being like really, really good in Painter, like really good. And my opponent was like, don't like it so much. And then my opening hand for the second game on the play, it was Lotus Petal, Mox Opal, Ancient Tomb, and 4th Erlangers in hand.
Nice.
Oh, dude.
I had 3 tokens on the first turn and went for it. And there was no coming back.
No.
And this is not the case for 4th Erlangers because of this hand, but it was just like, it was so funny to me. And the opponent also was a good sport about it. He was like, yeah, if it worked like that for me every time, I would also play it. I was like, yeah.
I mean, just say you've done that like every single game so far.
Yeah, this is the standard use case. Like I usually do it for 7 on the first turn, easy. We Dark Ritual it out somehow.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we're already at 2 hours. I think we're gonna end up cutting it at this point. But there's one more deck I want to shout out just to emphasize brewing and legacy, and especially in Japan, it just seems so popular. There's Akinori Nakano, who played literally mono black aggro. This reminds me of Suicide Black like 20 years ago. Guys, are you looking at
really
the decklist
nice.
right now?
Yeah, there's a playset of Arcfiend of the Draws.
I don't even know what that card does. It has way too much text.
Dude, it's a 4-drop. It's a 4-mana 6/6. Oh my goodness.
It's a new Abyssal Persecutor, basically.
Yeah.
It's a 4-mana 6/6 flying.
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, you put 4 oil counters on it at the beginning of your upkeep. remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross. Then, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, the controller loses 2 life. Okay, so this puts you on a clock, right?
Very fast clock.
But I guess you could also like sacrifice it for something.
It puts
like,
your opponent on a very fast clock.
As well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the oil thing is like, it's going to kill your opponent faster than the oil kills you, obviously. And so they probably just have to kill it with like 1 oil counter on it. Otherwise they die. I bet.
Oh, that works out really well that way, right?
Yeah.
Cool stuff. By the way, we should preface this. This deck went 8-2. This was
That's
one
sick.
match win away from making top 8.
Man. I mean, this is like what we were talking about in the kind of budgety thing. It's like, it's got 4 Deathly Voidwalker, 4 Orcish Bowmasters, 4 Grief, 4 Shieldred. And then it has 4 Archfiends and 4 Exsanguinated Cavalry. Is like, these are quite cheap cards, really. So if you have like all these good black cards from being a modern player, you can get some chalices that you might have ready, and then Chromox and Ancient Tomb of Obsidian Trader is quite expensive, but like you can definitely find some other cards to play instead of some of them as well.
I think the price in when that's your approach to coming into Legacy, I think the price is not in the deck, but the price is in how many matches you have to play to actually arrive at something that works for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you play it on Magic Online, you're probably going to have a lot of like trial and error, and you're going to burn a bunch of ticks that way. But if you kind of find something that works, and even more so if you play offline, I guess, but that's going to make it a lot harder to get good results, I guess. Then you can play something like this to an 8-2.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know what I love about this? Sanguinator Cavalry. You can't tell me this is not like a throwback to Whirling Dervish.
It's so cool. Yeah.
You guys know Whirling Dervish?
Yep. It's the
I was in love with that card.
green 1/1 that when it hits you gets bigger, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is also what the cavalry does. It also has like menace. The other one had protection from black, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Dude, can you imagine? Like you're sitting there. I don't know in which round that they lost, but let's say you're sitting down at 8-1, and then your opponent goes like turn 1 Swamp, Chromox, Extinguisher Cavalry or something, or Dark Ritual, Archfiend of the Dross go.
I've already played against this cavalry card. Friend of mine, Tommaso, he plays lots of Stompy decks in London, and he's played this like a year ago. He top 8'd an LLM with it.
Oh, this is good enough, actually, really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's top 8'd an LLM, and this is the second time I've seen this card.
Okay.
So you make
the only
your
thing
own
that
mind
threw me
up.
off is that's like 3 mana. I thought this kind of card might be 2 mana in today's day and age, but then again, it has like Menace, Lifelink, and yeah, okay, this would be.
It's got a lot of words.
Yeah, but half of it is like the reminder.
Like
text
the
about what
moment
Blood
it hits your
Token does.
opponent once, it's then a 3/4 Menace Lifelink. So like your opponent has your Delver opponent has 1 turn to bolt it. Otherwise, it's going to run over the game.
And it's gonna really hard to like properly double block it, I guess, as well. And then they also have like removal, and it gets even worse. Okay. Yeah. I can see how this card can be super annoying to deal with.
Yeah. I think as like if you can play it turn 1 or 2, it's not bad at all. It's cool.
Dude, I almost want to see it. Kaya, are you gonna stream this deck?
I might want to.
I want to play this deck. Now I'm looking at it like I've got my laptop next to me opening Magic Online. So yeah.
So we have to stream it together then. Yeah.
Let's do it.
They're like, dude, this is so cool after like such big events is that like you want to play all of those decks.
Yeah, really.
Right? You want to try them out. Like you know that they're all good. That's because we are talking about them. But like they have so many creative one-offs and crazy sideboard decks. Like we haven't even touched on the stuff on Doomsday, for example, but there is a crazy card in one of the Doomsday sideboard. It's so the Doomsday deck, which made top 8 in Asia, has a single March of Swirling Mist in the sideboard, and I don't blame you if you don't know this card. Like this is a crazy card from.
Oh my god, I'm looking at it right now.
I'm
I
trying to
didn't
guess.
know this existed.
Is this the blue one that phases creatures out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a blue and X, and you can pitch a card. You can exile any number of cards from your hand, and that makes it like cost 2 less, right? And it says up to X target creature phase out. What a genius! Like. So what is like you pay 1 mana for an instant, you exile like a random land or whatever from your hand, and you get
it
to
must
like
be a blue card. It must be a blue card.
You're playing against paint.
Oh yeah.
Blue.
Okay,
That's
sure.
fine.
Yeah, you name blue. Yeah, or like a random brainstorm because you have too many of them, and then you phase out 2 Thalias. Okay, actually that's a pretty bad example.
Sky, I think we need to cut this episode at this point.
This is where we bring you on.
What a genius.
So you exile a land as your blue card, so you can kill 2 Thalias.
Yeah.
Kai wouldn't have made it through the entire tournament without like, getting too many match losses.
Could I have the check, please? I'd like to leave now.
Okay. Loving it. By the way, shout-outs to the 10-year-old kid on Burn, like the cycle completes whom you lost against in one of your challenge matches.
Oh, this was like probably like the most like heartwarming story of the whole weekend for me.
That's why we put it at the end. We hate heartwarming stories.
Oh, dude, like among the 31 challenges at the Salvatorix booth, there was also this one kid who 10-year-old, and so I heard that he asked his dad, who was also a player in the main event, Dennis, asked him like a few times if he could finally challenge me at the booth after the event. I think he played Burn in the main event and like continued until like the 6th or 7th round or so. And then he showed up in the late afternoon with Daddy, and they showed up. They had a Burn deck ready. I let them pick one of my 2 decks. I had Cradle, Fiend Artisan Elves ready, and Rock Delver deck, and they picked the deck box which had Rock Delver. And I immediately drew an opening hand with like Dismember against a Burn deck, which was fantastic. And long story short, it was a pretty epic match. It was a best of 1, but at the second half of the game, we had I don't want to lie, it was probably about like 20 plus people around the booth who were all cheering for the boy, right?
Absolutely, as you should.
And it wasn't our boy. It was the other boy.
It was the other boy. It was not the boy. It was the actual boy. Yeah, and it was so funny because like every time he did like a slight like suboptimal play, his dad or the crowd they kind of tried to like stop him or convince him that the other plays are better. You know, for example, like I think he had like 2 mountains and he had like a Burn spell and a Rift Bolt. And to play the spell first and then to suspend, right? To play around days, for example, that sort of stuff. We ended up being in a situation where I had what's it called? The monkey, the Hooting Mandrills. Yeah, an opponent, they had an Eidolon, the Great Revel, but I was at 1 life and I couldn't cast anything. And they were at 3 life. And the last top deck was a Monastery Swift Spear.
And you're still sitting there on that stupid Dismember.
Yeah, dude, we were both at 1, and then they just went for the win. And dude, it got really loud. It got really loud at the booth.
The thing is,
I gotta tell you,
these challenges, they have grown so much. I happened to watch some of them between the rounds. You have so many people watching them. They're an event in itself. Like because a lot of times people are like rooting for the challenger, right? And,
yeah, dude, 100%.
You know, we should have like borrowed Anorak to stream some of your matches there on the challenge.
Oh, don't spoil my future plans, but I think like
I love the ambition that you have for your booth, right? Like I think we didn't record this early on, but you talked about like having a DJ behind you and all the kind of stuff for your future events.
Also, I wanna stream the whole thing. Like I wanna stream how people challenge me, and I also wanna stream how I do alterations on those tokens, and I just wanna stream the whole thing.
I mean, you're not saying it, but I'm gonna say it. I think you are gonna make your booth the biggest attraction outside of the main event and these events in the future. Very much so. Like I don't really hit up dealers all that much. Like I love to go to the dealers and like look at like all these like super rare cards and stuff that I'm never gonna buy. Yeah. But other than that, unless you wanna buy or sell cards, there's not too much to do there. But you are actually bringing something that a lot of these events, outside of artists, I think artists also, like, I mean, you are an artist, but to me, like, your booth is so much more than just being an artist. And I think you're very much leaning into that, right? That you're, like, providing, a real experience. And after like, seeing how far you've come, I'm just so excited. And I understand why you want to do this in, like, not just Europe.
I mean, yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun with it, you know, and the best part is that it's not just me having a lot of fun; it's like everyone having a lot of fun, and like especially after this game, like I had a few people, including myself, like we had a little bit of like pee in our eyes because because then you know, like the two, like the boy and also Daddy, like they got to sign the swag flag. Basically, it's like a big giant flag behind my booth, and everyone who beats me gets to sign it. And they also wrote like, you know, how they crushed me and like the date and yeah, damn, that's a cool story, and they're probably gonna take this story home to, you know, tell other friends.
That's great. Awesome. By the way, and speaking of the swag flag, we also got to quickly hang with Brian Coward of the Eternal Glory podcast.
Yes!
Didn't he actually like hijack your flag and sign it without beating you?
Yeah, that was we gotta. Yeah, how did he do that?
I just remember that.
Dude, that's almost cheating. Yeah, I might want to call the judge maybe at some point. But it was really good to meet Brian and for the first time. Really, it was like a, it was. We had a couple of minutes just chit chatting a little bit. But Brian from the Eternal Glory podcast, and he talked about like how his legacy and vintage deck choices, and how he's doing, and his crazy flights, and how everything got delayed and things. But it was really good seeing him.
Yeah, there's too many people to shout out, especially at these big events. So, dude, I guess we could keep going on forever. Like, there was Justin there, and like a lot of like all of our European Magic friends. By the way, shout out to Reinhard Gao from China, who also is like in Europe these days for work, whom I met twice at, I think only once at Orlov in Beijing. I think the second time he didn't have time. I don't remember. It's just really like, nice, I guess we could make an entire podcast episode about all the amazing people we met. But I want to shout out all the people that make this work for us, especially our Patreons on Eternal Witness tier: Colin Garassi, Alex Crow, Tim Everett, Testacular, Sebastian Hollager, Guillaume, Sean Dewey, Francis Kauper, Cassandra Davis, Tom Zischka, Benedikt Tuber, and Severin Schwarzhuber. And our Grizzlebrand tier supporters: Scott Monroe, Tom Happ, Kane, Ian Seefeld, and Colonoscopy. And literally everybody who ever left a review for us. Every time a new review comes in on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you want, if you want to join us, you can support us on patreon.com. You really make all of this tick, and you make this work for us, so that we can like spend over 2 hours at this point just like shooting the shit about one of the most amazing events of the year. And even I had a great time, even though it didn't feel very well at all health-wise, but I'm just so happy that I still went for that one day that I got there and had a great time. So, Kai, where's your next booth gonna be? Where can we find you next time?
Yeah, that one is already scheduled. That's for January 2024. It's gonna be in France.
What's going down in France?
Yeah, so in France and Lyon, there's a Magic event called MTG Once, and I'll be there. They fly me in. It's gonna be awesome. Cool. I haven't been to France in 10 years or so I'm really stoked to see like a flourishing
I love how these Magic events are named. Like you could write an entire article about like Nebraska's war and what have you, MTG Once. There must be something behind it, I guess.
MTG Once is the team. It's Greg Milon and Stefan, I think, is one of them.
Okay.
And my boy, his name's Ganesh on the Painted Discord. And I've forgotten his real name. Shit.
I played against him in the main event. He was the guy.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I played against him.
French guy.
He's French, right?
Yes. Yeah. He's a brilliant painter player.
He's basically the painter player I talked about where I had this like brain fart.
Nice. Yeah. He's got like foil welders. He's been playing the deck forever.
Yeah, that deck looks impressive.
So
he's got a disciple. Like there was another painter player who said he's just like painter master and he's learning from him.
Yeah,
I don't remember the name.
But MTG Ones is them as a team, and I don't know. I think Greg has been like organizing events for a long time. Maybe the others have as well. I can't remember, but they're just all absolutely lovely. So I have every what's the I'm a bit sleepy now. I know it'll be an amazing event. So if you are in like the French region or Europe mainland and stuff and want to go, like these are players that are running an event, not TOs trying to like make money off it. So it'll be amazing.
Awesome. So with that, guys, we're gonna call it a day now here. I'm gonna be off to Egypt on a super short notice holiday. Like my boss just told me, hey, you're new at the company, and hey, why don't you go on a free holiday to Egypt? So I was like, yeah, dude, call. So I'm flying in mid-December now. So I think we're gonna get in one more episode. Actually, I'm not too sure because Kai and I are gonna be commentating Eternal Weekend North America from the 9th to the 10th. So I guess we're going to do like a review episode right after, and then one more towards the end of the month. So everybody, if you don't hear from us before the next Eternal Weekend in North America, best of luck to you. Don't play Sneak Show, or if you do, find a way to make it work. And yeah, long live Ancient Tomb.
Who's going to win? Who's your prediction to win? I'm saying Mark first, so you guys can.
Yeah, dude, I already like basically called Mark, right?
Dude, yeah. This is a Mark podcast.
Yeah, this is cool. this is the podcast where we predict Mark Tobias should. Can you imagine how epic it would be if he actually won?
So good.
Okay, with that, everybody, have a great time. Good luck at the tournament, and see you again in December. Bye bye.
Ciao.
See ya.